Thank you very much to that one person. Yes, you. Thank you for watching On Air. And yes, if you have a story, if you want to go ahead and share your journey with me, then just go to the description below. There's a form that you can go ahead and fill out, or just send us a message and tell us about you, tell us about your story, tell us about your life, and the team of On Air is going to get in touch with you. Come, sit on the seat with me, and let's have a conversation. See you soon.
हाम्रो त्यो जुन बेलाको घर थियो नि, it was old house and it was being required mending, so my mom had to be shifted to the cow shed, for the time that I was born. So I'm such a lucky person that I didn't succumb to illnesses that can occur, in a constrained environment, or we were never vaccinated and things like that. So
The Dr. Banskota of B&B Hospital, गोठमा जन्मिनु भएको थियो हैन यो त गजबै कथा हो त यहीँबाट सुरु गरौँ नि त let me know when we can यहीँबाट सुरु गरौँ नि त हैन गोठमा जन्मिनु भयो नि त आज फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि हैन
That's what my mother said, yeah, and I consider myself very lucky that I survived, I mean, still Nepalma अझै I believe 60% of births occur in the home environment, but in those days, I remember हाम्रो गोठ अझै सम्झिन्छु तलतिर गाईहरू हुन्थे, there's cow dung all over, so a room upstairs couldn't have been that hygienic, but
भ्याक्सिनेसनको हिसाबले हजुरले भनिहाल्नुभयो हैन त्यो ग्रेजुअली भ्याक्सिनेसन चाहिँ कस्तो हजुरलाई कहिले याद छ हुन्छ नि हाम्रोमा भ्याक्सिनेसन मज्जाले आइसकेको थियो ग्रेजुअली डाउन द रोड
I think smallpox was established, routine for people living in urban areas, because most of us, even who are old, have this mark on our arm, which is the pox vaccine mark. So apart from that, it has taken a long time for these preventive health services to develop.
काठमाडौँमै भनौँ न भ्यालीमै हजुर चाहिँ यतै जन्मिनु भयो हैन तर गोठमा जन्मिनु भयो घरमा तर यतै जन्मिनु भयो
यतै जन्मी अनि त्यसपछि अब हामीले अर्लिएस्ट मेमोरिजमै our father, dad, just wanted us to go to school and learn. उहाँले जुन कुरा मिस गर्नुभएको थियो नि, so I must have been, me and my brother, 3.5, 4 years old, त्यहाँ across the river, कालामोचन भन्ने घाट छ कि त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि there used to be a school that had been started. Sukulma basni, wide open to the river. I remember my brother, my elder brother and me going to that school. Sukulma basera kaha, our alphabets and things we learned there.
Kaha gaga, ABCD ta haina kaha gaga sabai hote.
Whatever, we went to a school there, and I don't remember exactly how long we went there because quite proximal to that time. In proximity to that time, my dad opened a school in Kupundol called Pragati School, which is still now, Most people don't know that, but he had a very leading role to open that school. Ani mero didi, mero dai ra malai त्यहाँ भर्ना गर्नुभएको, I remember.
Pragati School. Magazine को नाम के थियो? Pragati Magazine. उहाँले म्यागजिन पनि खोल्नुभयो अनि केही समयपछि मिलेर स्कुल पनि खोल्नुभयो.
हो. त्यो स्कुल अझै छ. धेरैलाई थाहा छैन that he is one of the main founders of that school, but my brother in that biography has clarified many of those things. Now, the other interesting part is, because my dad was so much involved in promoting Nepali literature and all that, and with all his connection with all the famous poets of the time, we remember in 1954, in लाइनचोरमा चाहिँ नि कवि शिरोमणि लेखनाथ पौडेलको चाहिँ नि रथ तान्ने एउटा कार्यक्रम थियो कि
हजुर
अनि मेरो ड्याडले चाहिँ नि मलाई र मेरो एल्डर ब्रदरलाई we were small, I must have been 5 years old, but I still have a vivid memory of that. त्यो लाइनचोरको अहिलेको अमृत साइन्स कलेज अगाडि ठुलो चौर थियो है त्यहाँ एउटा रथमा चाहिँ नि एउटा सिंहासन जस्तोमा कवि शिरोमणिजीलाई राखेका थिए and then दुईटा डोरीले नि all the poets and all that were pulling this rath slowly to some circumscribed areas in town के अनि त्यो तान्दाखेरि म र मेरो दाइ पनि मेरो फादरसँग थियौँ अनि my dad saw a tall white figure in a cassock out there, a white person. Korecha. Ekdam, it's like a bakula in a, a big dark field. So he got curious and went to him, and it is Father Moran,
Father Moran?
Father Moran, is the principal of St. Xavier's School. He was also pulling the Rath out there, So Father Moran there's a long story about him. In fact, there's a book about Father Moran called Moran of Kathmandu. And I personally know Father Moran very well and personally because I was a boarder in the school for 10 years. So
I know.
1951 to 1954, the school was in Godavari. So by 1954, the school had become too small to accommodate more children. So Father Moran in 1955, he opened this school in Jaulakhela. And so this event that I am referring to occurred in 1954.
1954.
End of 1954. And my father Father Moran ko bhet bhayeपछि Father Moran said, who are these two children here? Malai मेरो दाइलाई देखाएर, and my dad said, my sons, he said, do they go to school? He said, no. He said, bring them there. I have opened the school.
So
a couple of days later, my father took me and my brother to St. Xavier's. He trained us a little bit. He said, the father might ask you, what is your name? And all that kind of thing, So I'm really indoctrinate garnuvo, few questions and answers. And then we went to school and fatherly, he admitted us. So I think that is one of the most important events in our lives because I don't know the status of educational facilities in Nepal in 1954.
Yeah.
But I consider myself extremely lucky that I got into this school and I completed my education there as a boarder for 10 years. It introduced me to a very diverse kind of education, opened my mind to many things that I would have never actually been open to at the time, gave me tremendous advantage of reading books, communication skills, and gave me an excellent idea of what I wanted to do in the future. Unfortunately, after 2-3 years in the school, we came back for our winter holidays. 3-4 years, my dad said, listen, I can't send you guys to that school anymore. It's too expensive.
It's too expensive.
So, that's my dad, that's Dev Kotaji, and that's somebody else. That's your Kupundolgai Garma ho.
हजुरको बुवा बिचमा हुनुहुन्छ
टोपी लगाएको
हैन अनि त्यसपछि ओ माय गॉड हातमा चुरोट थियो हो त
कोटाजीको चुरोट हो
उहाँलाई कहिले हजुरलाई याद छ हजुर सानो हुँदाखेरि
छ हाम्रो घरमै कति सुत्नु भएको छ उहाँ he was very close to my dad
कस्तो हुनुहुन्थ्यो उहाँ एज अ फर्केर हजुरलाई जति मेमोरी छ
he was a very loving person हामीहरु त्यहाँ कोठामा गयौं they used to be discussing about the next publication so हामी गयौं नि हामीलाई काखमा राख्नुहुन्थ्यो उहाँले that's all I remember
wow यो कुपण्डलकै तस्बिर होला यो हैन त
हाम्रै घरको हो
हजुरकै घरको
हो हाम्रै कम्पाउन्ड हो
त्यो साइकल हो जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई उहाँ साइकलमा हुँदै रहेछ
हो he had a bicycle
थाहा छैन ल यो चाहिँ एकदम हैन 50s 60s को तस्बिर होला यो हैन एज अ फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि हैन वाउ
त्यस्तै होला
वाउ एनीवेज हजुरले भन्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो अनि त्यसपछि चाहिँ हामी सेन्ट जेभियर्स चाहिँ अब चाहिँ पढाउन सक्दैनौँ
माई फादर that's what he said अब विन्टर भेकेसनमा घर आइन्थ्यो नि सबै गुन्टा सुन्टा बोकेर नै घर फर्किन्थ्यो सो माई ब्रदर एन्ड आई वर थ्रिल्ड गोइङ टु बोर्डिङ स्कुल वाज not a very exciting thing for children, and with lot of discipline. Ananda भयो नजानी भनेर बसिरहेको थियौँ. We were playing, the school had started, त्यो बेलामा हाम्रो घरमा मोटरको बाटो पनि आउँदैन थियो सबै गल्ली थियो त्यो हाम्रो गेट त्यत्रो भित्र गल्लीमा एक दिन only me and my brother were at home. My dad was in the village And I don't know where my mom was. Dang गरेर ढोका हाने हामी त खेलिरहेको थियौँ यसो गएर हेरेर त गेटमा फादर मोरान. We got so scared. We thought and then he came inside. He said, "Why aren't you guys in school?" We had no answer. Both of us had blushed. And then he kind of caught our ears like this and he said, "Come on, I'm taking you back to school." So हामी चाहिँ नि अब लुगासुगा पहिले माथि हाम्रो बरन्डामा हाम्रो ममले चाहिँ नि स्कुलबाट ल्याएको लुगाहरू सबै सुकाएर धोएर त्यहाँ राखेको थियो. त्यो होल्डर हुन्छ नि पहिले बेडिङ हाल्ने त्यस्तो हुन्थ्यो पातलो डस्ना. सो वेयर स्मल किड्स हामीले सबै कुरा त्यसमा कोचेर तान्दै तल ल्यायौँ अनि फादर मोरान टुक अस ब्याक टु स्कुल. एन्ड देन माई फादर नेभर गट अ बिल अगेन यु नो. हामी बोथ माई ब्रदर एन्ड आई कम्प्लिटेड आवर स्कुल फर फ्री
क्लास 10
सम्म होइन. सो
फादर मोरानको पिक्चर खोज त एउटा प्लिज फाइन्ड द पिक्चर मिस्टर एक्स. होइन म यता खोज्न लाउँछु गुगलमा होइन. फादर मोरानको एउटा फोटो खोज त.
मसँगै छ फोटो त्यहाँ.
त्यसमै कहिले पनि पैसा तिर्नु परेन.
सुन्नुहोस् न अनि म चाहिँ नि फर्केर आएँ अघि अमेरिकाबाट. यो स्टोरीलाई आइएम जम्पिङ मेनी इयर्स. सो फादर ग्याफ्नी भन्ने हुनुहुन्थ्यो. फादर ग्याफ्नी वाज रनिङ ए सोसियल सर्भिस सेन्टर हियर. उहाँ चाहिँ नि when we were in school also he had come as a novitiate and then he went for further training to India and Nepal. Very important role थियो उहाँको. He ran a social service center अनि उहाँको त्यहाँ lot of disabled children and destitute children used to be in that orphanage के थियो that is still running. And because there were disabled children and all that, म फर्केर आएपछि पनि त्यहाँ I used to go and look after the children, take them to surgery for father. And यसै जिस्केर एकचोटि Father Gaffney was in his office and he said, "You know, Ashok, I am the treasurer of the Nepal Jesuit Society and I'm just going through an old ledger here and I see a big red mark against the Banskota brothers, you know." And I said, "Wow, and what's that, Father?" And then he said, I'm like, he said, "Listen, from this year to this year, you know, you two brothers have studied without paying anything." We said, "Thank you, Father, for that." And I said, "You know, Father, now we are able to pay it, we'll pay it back." अनि मैले मेरो दाइसँग कुरा गरेँ and then we paid back the money. It was something 35,000 rupees. That's Father Moran, right?
Oh.
That same year. That's Marshall Moran.
Marshall Moran, होइन? Good for him. त्यतिखेर पैसा लिन्छु भनेको भए probably हजुरहरूलाई पढाउन सकिन्न थियो होला.
सक्दैन थियो होला. That's otherwise why would my dad so passionate about education, you know, put us into a school and take us out, होइन?
कतिजना विद्यार्थी थिए सेन्ट जेभियर्समा हजुरलाई याद छ?
अब I think in Godavari until 1951 about maybe not more than 100. And then the facilities were scarce, होइन? They were not developed and transport was difficult and so जाउला खेलको यो प्रपर्टी किनेपछि डे स्कलर्स पनि भयो बोर्डर पनि भयो होइन मोर पिपल ह्याड एक्सेस एन्ड उनीहरूले स्कुलको फिस त अलवेज भेरी नमिनल यु नो द जेजुइट्स ह्याभ देयर फोकस अन प्रमोटिङ एजुकेसन एन्ड फादर मोरानको यो हिज ओन स्टोरी इज भेरी इन्ट्रेस्टिङ इफ यु आर इन्ट्रेस्टेड यु क्यान रिड द्याट बुक कल्ड मोरान अफ काठमाडौँ भन्ने एउटा डन मेसर स्मिथ भन्ने लेखेको किताब. So Father Moran was a very, very bright person and his grandfather, he was a favorite of his grandfather, was very wealthy, you know, in the Illinois, Chicago area. This story Father told me himself, you know. So he thought that Marshall was one of the smart grandchildren. He expected him to go on to, you know, do something big, you know, engineering, some research, and because he had a very good knack for mechanical things. He used to learn to drive a car very early, and so his grandfather was very disappointed when Father Moran said he was going to join the seminary and become a priest. Yeah. So when it came time for him to distribute whatever resources he had to his so many grandchildren, everybody was surprised that he said, I want something put up for Marshall, I don't know when he might need this, he may not need it at all, but put his share. Some funds had been kept aside for him. And when time came to open Jaulakhel school, Father Moran is very clever, scouted property all around, and then he saw this place in Jaulakhel and it was up for sale. So he asked his, superiors in Patna, the Patna diocese for help. And they said, we can't provide money to buy property like that, so it has to be donated. Or so Father loan and he bought that property. And then he went back, he contacted his people in America, and the money that his grandfather had set aside for him was sent here to buy that property in Jaulakhel, So that's how St. Xavier's Jaulakhel school ko त्यो ownership फादरहरूले लिएको.
Dr. Banskota, as a फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि होइन, आफ्टर भनौँ न गुड 70 years पछि के होइन, 70 वर्ष पछि होइन, फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि हजुरको त्यो 8 देखि त्यो भनौँ न 13-14 वर्ष जुन हजुरले एडुकेसन लिनुभयो नि होइन, त्यो एडुकेसन कति इम्पोर्टेन्ट थियो एज अ फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि? बेस एडुकेसन के हो?
I would say that Godavari school, at least until the time I studied there, was probably one of the best schools ever. Okay, and it gave everything that a school has to provide. Discipline, a routine, ability to master the spoken language, ability to comprehend, ability to desire to learn. We had a library, we had to write book reports every month, So, the school gave as much as you could absorb. Not everybody was able to absorb that probably, but for me, I took in what the school gave very, very intensely. We had the best teachers, people who were overqualified who were teaching us, So all highly educated and qualified American fathers. Except for Nepali, all the other teachers were American fathers with very, very good degrees in science and biology. And so the exposure in English literature, in those days, we read unabridged, books for our senior Cambridge course by Dickens, Thomas Hardy, Shakespeare, and it sometimes looked like it was a bit of an overdose, but I think that's the way things...
Foundation.
Yeah, the foundation was very strong. Our general science and maths, introduced us to arenas of education that were not generally available in the other schools. So, after reading, after being in school, I had a very good idea. I said, I want to be a doctor.
Wow.
Our library had so many books, and one of the authors that fascinated me was a Scottish writer by the name of A.J. Cronin, So he has written a series of books. The first book that I read was called Adventures in Two Worlds, So adventure number 1 was him being a general practitioner in the Scottish mines, and riding his motorcycle and going from house to house, doing minor surgery in the mines.
This one?
A.J. Cronin, yeah. That's absolutely fascinating book. So this really caught me. And the second part was, pensive thinking, became a writer. And then I read all his books, Hatter's Castle, Citadel. I don't remember all the names, but everything that I could find, I read. And I said, my gosh, I want to be a doctor.
A doctor. A quick question to you, होइन? आजको दिनमा to all the schools that are probably listening right now, होइन?
Yeah.
What would you want to say to the people who run the schools के आजको दिनमा?
Well, I think a lot of the schools are focused on improving, promoting education to advance skills and a career. But I think the social sciences are also equally important. I think we should get a good dose of history. We should actually be exposed to literature, maybe Nepali literature also. One of my biggest regrets nowadays at this age is that I didn't study Sanskrit properly, So Sanskrit is such a wonderful language. I'm not qualified to delve into its intricacies and depth, but I do go back a little bit nowadays, every day, one slok, another slok, especially of the Gita, especially following the teachings of my Guru Paramahamsa Yogananda, in all his writings and books, there are frequent references to, various spiritual books, the Bhagavad Gita, the Second Coming of Christ, the Bible, which we read in great detail as a subject even in school. And I have absolutely no regrets about that, because it has really opened my eyes to the oneness of all. Truth is the same everywhere, Jesus Christ and Bhagavan Krishna's yoga, identical. Our Guru has interpreted both. They look so different because these avatars came at different ages, and ability of a population to comprehend that kind of teaching was different. So it had to be spoken in parables, in different type of mystical language. But so I think it's very important for people who are in school and education to be grounded. I think all this nonsense about Sanskrit being a very Hinduish thing and all this, people are saying now it is one of the most complete languages ever, with all its so many syllables, its ability to encompass so much information in certain concise texts. Even in I believe in space technology, they are trying to find out which language is most appropriate for recording data and all. They have said Sanskrit it stands out by far as the best language for that. So we are born in this culture, so I think all of us should actually cherish this, and I would be really, really happy if a good strong focus was put on languages like Sanskrit and Nepali history. And
There's a picture कि एउटा तस्बिर छ मसँग हैन, यो हजुरको छोराले मलाई पठाउनु भएको थियो हैन, अनि यो तस्बिर मलाई देखाउनु मन छ हैन, किनभने यतिखेर हजुर जन्मिनु भएको थियो कि थिएन मलाई थाहा छैन, तर हजुरको बुवा चाहिँ हुनुहुन्छ यो तस्बिरमा हैन, अनि अरु को हुनुहुन्छ यसो फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि?
अब मैले यहाँबाट त त्यो बेलाको all those with any standing in Nepal, including General Kesar Samser, Vishweshwar Prasad Koirala, Matrika Prasad Koirala, Tanka Prasad Acharya, Leknath Paudel,
11 नम्बर हेर्नु मैले हेर्दै छु, 11 नम्बरमा बीपी कोइराला हुनुहुन्छ हैन, त्यो त यसो फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि हैन,
Lakshmi Prasad Devkota. The important thing is, I think in those days, people who were in politics were also very educated. I mean, they had a strong desire to promote Nepali and Nepal as a language. And this picture is a grand illustration of that, which I don't think is the scenario now,
अहिले चेन्ज भइसक्यो हजुर, अहिले चेन्ज भइसक्यो, तर सबैजना सँगै आएर हैन बसेर सँगै चाहिँ भनौँ न संवाद गरेर हैन एक कप चिया खाएर चाहिँ कुरा गर्न सक्ने चाहिँ सिचुएसन थियो
एकदम. केदारमान बेते, माधव आचार्य, पुष्कर शमशेर जबरा, चित्तरञ्जन नेपाली, everybody is there, केशवराज पिँडाली.
यो समय है कहिले 1950s हजुर, अफ कोर्स
त्यही 2007 सालको
वरिपरिकै कुरा त हो नि हैन. सो फर्केर अब सेन्ट जेभियर्समा त ओके अब म चाहिँ डाक्टर भन्छु भनेर सोच्नुभयो?
हजुर,
सोचेर त भएन.
त्यसपछि अरू किताबहरू पनि पढेँ हैन. अब एट वान टाइम बिफोर आई रेड क्रोनिन्स बुक I wanted to be an engineer because I really like working with my hands, And हाम्रो library there used to be a regular series, serial magazine called Hobbies Weekly.
Hobbies Weekly?
Yeah.
Okay. के थियो त्यसमा चाहिँ?
त्यसमा चाहिँ नि अब it showed you how to build a crystal set, how to make a little transistor radio, how to make a little simple motor by, making your own coils. So...
You esto kitab? Hobbies book?
Yeah.
More electric traffic signal models. So यसमा चाहिँ के बनाउने सिकाउनु?
मेरो चाहिँ नि एउटा मभन्दा 2 वर्ष सिनियर एउटा साथी हुनुहुन्थ्यो स्कुलमा, पङ्कज राणा भन्ने. So he also had this kind of interest. In fact, मभन्दा उहाँ यसमा अलि बढी हुनुहुन्थ्यो, and he really enticed me. So मेरो interest भएर I used to tag along with him, and then he had the resources to order things. He was from a better background. So क्यालकाटाबाट उसले चाहिँ नि अब क्रिस्टल्सहरू, small transistors, त्यस्तो मगाएर हामीहरू used to together assemble. I remember assembling my first crystal set. You know what a crystal set?
I have no idea. हजुरले crystal set
crystal is a transistor, okay? So it is a
रेडियोमा लाग्ने ट्रान्जिस्टर.
अहिलेको चिप जस्तै भनौँ न, मोस्ट सिम्पलर फर्म. अब सेन्ट्रलमा चिप हुन्छ, दुईतिर वायर हुन्छ के. त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि त्यसलाई चाहिँ नि इफ यु organize that with a coil, and take a antenna, and have a very, very fine earphone in which it doesn't need power. Without any battery, you can catch a radio station and tune. So, हामी त्यो स्कुलमा बनाउँथ्यौँ crystal set, transistor radio, सबै assemble गर्यो. त्यसपछि I used to make telephones also, you see. Very simple telephone, from one classroom to another, we would talk. So, I thought maybe I'd be an engineer. But then after reading this book, and then I also very much impressed in my school days by a doctor called Dr. Tom Dooley. Tom Dooley was a missionary doctor, and he was working in, at the time in, I think, Laos, where there was a civil war going on, and working in very adverse conditions. And he wrote a book. Maybe I have written many books, but one book that I read was called The Night They Burned the Mountain, And this is a book about refugees, all the challenges of healthcare in a, scenario where there is a civil war. And so, this book. So this also really affected me. And then I thought maybe I want to be a missionary doctor, And later on, the Dooley Foundation was developed, and a lot of charitable work through that. So that's not the only book. I read about Dr. Albert Schweitzer's work in Africa. One thing great about my school education was we had a very good
access
library.
Access to books from around the world.
Old books, but and there was a rule. After 8th grade, 8th, 9th, 10th, every month you have to read a book and write a book report, So those things really, really shaped me up, and I'm ever, ever, ever grateful for that.
So, अब सेन्ट जेभियर्स त सक्यो, अब सेन्ट जेभियर्स सक्यो तर डक्टर बन्ने सपना त छ. डक्टर बन्न पैसा चाहिन्छ
एकदम. एनिवे त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ नि अब म त यति एन्थ्युज थिएँ. आई वान्टेड टु get into medical school as soon as possible, So in those days, senior Cambridge gareko manchele, you could actually do the 2-year course in 1 year, okay? Aba 2 varsako huन्थ्यो नि ISC pre-medical. So I had in my mind that I'm going to do it in 1 year, whatever. And because there used to be a few scholarships available from India and other places even at that time.
Okay, त्यो समयमा नि पाउँथ्यो नेपालीले.
धेरै थिएन, 8-10 वटा सिट. अब मलाई त्यति डिटेल त थाहा भएन, but few seats used to be available for Nepali students. And so अब त्यो मेरो सिनियर केम्ब्रिज जाँच सक्यो, रिजल्ट आएको थिएन हैन. So this was around 1964 को एन्डमा जाँच दियो. And then that year my father told me, you go गाउँ गएर चाहिँ नि सबै धान सान सबै बेचेर सबै त्यहाँ गाउँको काम त गरेर आइज.
हजुर 24-25 वर्ष हुनुहुन्थ्यो त्यतिखेर.
कहाँ 24 वर्ष, स्कुल भर्खर सक्यो.
हजुर 16-17 वर्ष हुनुहुन्थ्यो त्यतिखेर. 16-17
16 So the previous year, my brother had gone. Now he was in college, so he couldn't go. And my dad had actually got a government job. I think he was in the information ministry as a director and whatnot. So I'd never done this kind of work, So, but anyway, I went to Pardia. त्यो बेलामा travel गर्नु पनि गाह्रो थियो. You have to go by road through India, and so गाउँमा गएर धान सान सबै बेचेर अनि त्यसपछि हाम्रो उता कैलालीतिर पनि there was some dad had some property there at the time. So त्यहाँ गएँ. You have to walk through the jungle, Gauri Phata, and it was really incredible. You have to just walk through the forest. It was sometimes dangerous also. But anyway, it's about 2 months of my time after my school exams were spent in the village, doing all this family work. And त्यो बेलामा त्यसपछि सबै बेचेर पैसा सैसा लिएर नेपाल आयो.
काठमाडौँ आयो.
क्यासै यसरी पट्टीमा बाँधेर
काठमाडौँ आयो.
भेरी डेन्जरस अहिलेको हेर्दाखेरि त्यो पैसा ल्याएर पेरेन्ट्सलाई बुझाएँ. अनि मेरो त रिजल्ट सबै भइसक्यो रहेछ. आई ह्याड पास टु द गुड डिभिजन, फर्स्ट डिभिजन एन्ड गुड मार्क्स. एन्ड कलेज पनि सुरु भइसकेको होइन. सो त्यो बेलामा पब्लिक साइन्स कलेज भन्थ्यो नि. सो आई वेन्ट देयर टु गेट एडमिसन. एन्ड देयर आर सम टिचर्स हुम माई फादर न्यू. लाइक हामी कुपुन्डोलमै एउटा रिजाल सर भन्ने हुनुहुन्थ्यो. वाज अ फिजिक्सको प्रोफेसर देयर. एन्ड देन हामीलाई तङ भन्नुहुन्थ्यो. ही सेड सेकेन्ड इयर जोइन नगर, इट्स भेरी डिफिकल्ट, बिग कोर्स, यु कान्ट फिनिस भनेर उहाँले सल्लाह दिनुभयो. बट मेरो माइन्ड वाज अल सेट के. आई सेड कम वाट एभर. आई वाज
पढ्ने हो, डक्टर बन्ने.
तर एडमिसन टाइम बितिसकेको थियो. सो त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ नि देयर युज टु बी G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, G6 भनेर ग्रुप्सहरू डिभाइड हुन्थ्यो कि स्टुडेन्ट्सको. म्याथ्स एन्ड साइन्स ग्रुप एन्ड देन बायोलोजी ग्रुप होइन. G1 भनेको द स्मार्टेस्ट गाइज. G6 भनेको सबै लम्फूहरू है, वर्स्ट भन्नु न. अब म चाहिँ नि लेट भएर म आई गट इन्टु G6, सो आई वाज इन द ग्रुप विथ द वर्स्ट, सो कल्ड वर्स्ट स्टुडेन्ट्स. एन्ड some things were very new to me. I had not studied botany in that great detail in our science course. Zoology also was a little bit more than what I had studied. Physics, chemistry was fine, organic chemistry was new to me. Biology, a lot of drawings and all. But anyway, I said I am going to do it. So 4-5 महिना college पढियो. त्यसपछि it was the 10th anniversary of public science college that year. And then they said we're going to have a function and drama. And so St. Xavier's St. Mary's pass gareko student we're going to put up a show, this, that, some Shakespeare ko. So I went त्यतै लागे हुन्छ. At that age हुन्छ नि, you just go with the crowd. So by the time all this thing was finished, the sent-up exam has come, because I have joined second year. And then my counselors and teachers said, don't, if you fail the sent-up, you have to go do your whole course again and you will not feel good. I said, no, I'm going to do it. So I took the sent-up exam and I passed. So everybody was kind of surprised. So after that, a few months I studied very hard. And then took my final exam. So I did the whole 2-year course in 1 year. Very few people do that. And that year, biology ma हामी पढ्ने बेलामा अब त्यस्तो अहिलेको जस्तो एकदम हाई मार्क्स आउँदैन थियो कि. And when somebody doing a biology course got a first division, it used to be a rarity. Okay?
Two time.
Yeah, rarity. So I passed my ISC. I was maybe one of 3 people who got a first division. And so that kind of secured my way to getting into a medical school. Because I had come at the top of my class in that year, and I got placed, almost didn't get placed to the best medical school, but I got placed to All India Institute, of Medical Sciences, best medical school in India, So scholarship, mein. So we used to get about 200 rupees a month, And
Stipend
we
money.
we used to that would be enough. Hostelलाई 20 रुपियाँ 40 रुपियाँ तिर्नु पर्थ्यो रूमलाई, small room, and then food would take about 120 rupees. So we'd have about 50-60 rupees left for our toiletries, and यसो अलिअलि पैसा बचाएर 3टा शर्ट 2टा प्यान्ट भयो, गर्मीमा पुग्ने, चप्पल स्यान्डल लगाइन्थ्यो. भेरी सिम्पल लाइफ, गर्मी ठाम, धेरै लुगा सुगा नचाहिने. So 5.5 years were spent out there, and I think my school education and then my medical school, they kind of just formed everything for me. Okay? Getting into this medical school just opened my world wide. Most of the students at the time used to go to America for training. I had absolutely no idea of all these things. So आफ्नै साथीहरू, from your seniors, what do you do? After you finish your MBBS exam, you got to take this American exam. And then once, if you pass that exam, you can get placed for residency program and training, and the residency program provides you with a stipend,
Yeah.
So that was just God's blessing for me, So
भारतको बसाइ कस्तो भयो र भारतको एजुकेसन कस्तो भयो, त्यो स्टोरी सुनाउनुहोस् न.
मेरो त medical school education, I think I couldn't have got a better education, where there 50 students. So All India Institute was largely focused as a postgraduate institute, for training in subspecialty. So they took only 50 students for MBBS every year, and I think it's still like that. Okay, so 50 of the best students from all over
The world.
India ko त्यत्रो ठुलो, so you suddenly find yourself in a group of people who are all smart, very outspoken, girls, boys, and then I'm coming from a background where, and my exposure is limited, except for what I went into a boarding school. I've really not lived outside per se. मेरो अरूहरूसँग interact गर्ने skills पनि in a way limited. I was very shy, So that was a big eye-opener. I remember one of the first classes in anatomy, we used to have big auditorium-like halls, and the professors would come. This particular professor, in those days, they would come a whole bunch of slides, they used to. So yeah, he was very well-dressed, His name was Professor Keshwani, anatomy professor. And then in the first class, he always liked to know the names of the people, So it was a game for him, okay? Where did you come from? What was your grade? What is this, that? And then he was asking that to everybody. And just to even answer those few simple questions, my heart was pounding, What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then so after that was over, he started his first class, So the lights were put off. And then he started showing one slide, another slide, talking such big things. I said, my God, I can't make it, This is too much for me to comprehend. And then once in a while he would have the lights open, very jovial and all. He said, listen, I'm an express train. I don't wait for third-class passengers.
Wow.
So I said, I am a third-class passenger. Am I going to miss this train, So it was like that, because it's a very, very big jump from at least the IAC that I studied to medical school, You just have, nobody says just study this much. You have big books, and the system in that medical school, you have tutorials every week in every subject, A tutorial means you sit with your, demonstrator, teacher, They put you in 5, 6, 50 people, group of, 8, 9, 10, So you're sitting in front, very short, and you study and they ask you questions all the time. It was really an interactive education. Okay? So you got to be prepared all the time, and then sometimes the amount of information to learn and memorize and, understand was very, very overwhelming, So especially I found my first year very, very challenging. It was not an easy thing.
Dr. Banskota, you were the only one in AIIMS at the time?
No. People were going before me also for a few years.
From Nepal, in your batch, you were the only one?
From my batch, I had a guy called Madhukar Rana.
Okay.
He's now recently passed away. He was an anesthetist. He immigrated to the UK.
Okay.
So.
Okay, very interesting. AIIMS 1965 मा जानुभयो 66 मा जानुभयो हैन?
I am the batch of 66.
66 हैन? AIIMS 1966 गुगल गरेर त मलाई त्यो अडिटोरियम अहिले पनि हेर्नु मन लाग्यो. I'll never forget what you just said, हैन?
I'll tell you.
I am an express train.
I want to tell you about this doctor. Okay, so after he retired and Professor Keshwani.
हजुर.
He did some other jobs in Bombay and all that, but he was very close to the alumni, okay? And used to AIIMS has a huge alumnus, group in America. Thousands of doctors who have graduated from AIIMS work and live in America. So they have an annual Amazonian meeting, thousands of doctors. And Dr. Keshwani used to be a part of this meeting very often, and he was very close to the alumni. So in his honor, some years back, they established what is called an NH Keshwani Memorial Lecture. And in 2016, can you believe it, I was awarded that lecture, NH Keshwani Memorial Lecture Award. I went to America. I gave a talk in front of the alumni. 2016 was our 50th anniversary of our batch. A lot of my classmates were there. And this happened in Florida, down there in Florida. So I got the NH Keshwani Award, and a lot of my classmates were kind of happy and maybe little jealous that, that I have actually been able to come that far, So that was a real 360-degree turn to be, confronted by this professor, in the first lecture, and then finally to be awarded there's a very nice plaque. It's in my office in Baneba. So
when did you become an express train?
Well, the medical education is such that if you are a doctor by force, somebody has said, be a doctor, and then you finally be a doctor, then it's not going to be a very interesting career, So, but if you are a doctor by passion, you really wanted that right from the very beginning, and you work at every step, to excel, to do what you want to do, then, it becomes very interesting. I still love my profession, I just stopped doing big operations, but I go to the operating room every day. I look over the shoulders. The young doctors are very skillful. In fact, they are far more skillful than us because they have so much technology at their, fingertips. We actually worked out of our trunk in Nepal, for a long time. It's just very limited facilities. We're innovators. We have, I think, more wisdom than the young people. And we had the wisdom to develop platforms for work, for training for younger doctors. So at least I can be very proud of that. I have established 2 hospitals. Of course, my colleague Dr. Baite was a close partner for the last more than 40 years.
No, Dr. Banskota, thank you for your service. अहिले नै हैन अझ कथा त भर्खर सुरु हुँदैछ हैन त्यसपछि एम्स पछि एकैचोटी के भयो त नेपाल आयो
त्यो पनि एम्स पछि चाहिँ नि नेपाल ब्रिफली आइयो बिकज एम्सको studies सकेपछि त my plan was to go to America for training because all my classmates were going there and I believed that that was the best option for me, So coming back to Nepal, the challenge for me was to get a passport. I started applying, to that various training programs, and there used to, I think there still is what is called National Intern and Resident Training Matching Program. Okay? So you apply to multiple hospitals.
नेपालमा
In America.
अमेरिकामा हजुर
And then the hospitals also receive so many applicants. So they choose you apply. So they try to match you like that.
71 मा हजुर फर्केर आउनुभयो होइन त नेपाल आज फर्केर आउनु भने
होइन MBBS सकेर त 71 को एन्डमा आएँ.
एन्डमा आउनुभयो होइन अब यहाँ आउनुभयो अनि त्यसपछि अब पास टु अमेरिका हुने भयो अब अहिलेको लागि पासपोर्ट त थिएन अरे होइन यसको पनि कथा छ भन्ने सुनेको थिएँ मैले
एकदम सो अब नेपालमा चाहिँ नि पहिलेदेखि नै भन्छन् के होइन इफ यु नो समबडी यु गेट एभ्रिथिङ डन आई ह्याड सम फ्रेन्ड्स अब आई न्यू द्याट फर देम गेटिङ अ पासपोर्ट वाज नट अ प्रब्लम एट अल अब मैले चाहिँ नि मेरो सबै अमेरिकामा ट्रेनिङको एप्लिकेसन्सहरू गयो आई गट म्याच टु ए ट्रेनिङ प्रोग्राम इन न्युयोर्क होइन सो द्याट वाज वान एक्साइटिङ पार्ट बट देन I didn't have the funds and resources to get there. I had to work that out. I didn't have a passport. So, passportलाई apply गरेपछि के भयो भनेदेखि the process was rather unfriendly and they said, you know, तपाईँ डक्टर हो अब स्कलरसिपमा पढेको you know you can't go out doctorहरूलाई जान्न that there was some kind of a rule like that but people who had the know how they circumvented the rules and went के so मेरो चाहिँ नि deadline आइसक्यो I still don't have a passport है and then I talked to my dad अब मेरो dad चाहिँ नि यस्तो भन्छन् जानी गर्ने खालको मान्छे पनि होइन है त्यसपछि I was really desperate I said maybe this year I won't make it you know so I finally त्यो बेलाको परराष्ट्र मन्त्रालयमा गएँ and then some kind soul said what does your father do you know and then at that time my father was a farmer he was living in the village you know so I said my father is a farmer so he said write farmer here you know so एक वर्षको भ्यालिडिटीको पासपोर्ट मलाई फार्मर भनेर लेखेर दियो कि
हजुरलाई
so
डक्टर भनेर
दिएन and then anyway I took the passport I said देखा जाएगा ठीक के होला कि त्यसपछि अब टिकट कसरी मिलाउने हैन and then पेरेन्ट्ससँग माग्ने पनि कुरा थिएन हैन like I told you before you know everybody was short of funds you know
पैसा थिएन
अब त्यो बेलामा अमेरिका जानलाई यसो बुझबुझाएर गर्दाखेरि everybody said you must go with a two-way ticket otherwise they will be very suspicious के अब so $420 back and forth को टिकट अब मेरो फर्चुनेटली एउटा डिस्टेन्ट कजन हुनुहुन्थ्यो एउटा थर्ड आई ट्राभल्स एन्ड टुर्स भन्ने थियो त्यो बेलामा काठमाडौँमा के सो आई वेन्ट लेटर अन दिस जेन्टलमेन ह्यापन टु बी द फर्स्ट कजन अफ माई वाइफ यु नो टु बी के सो त्यो बेलामा थाहा थिएन यो कुराहरू सो उहाँहरूसँग मैले एकदम cordially I made a plea के request पनि हैन plea I said you know everything has fallen into place I have to get there अब अमेरिका जाँदैछु म तिरिहाल्छु नि पैसा त एक दुई महिनामा I make some money there भनेर so they were very kind they issued me a ticket on credit okay so Air India हैन Air India बाट I took off
भिजा के गर्नुभयो
भिजा चाहिँ J1 भिजा थियो मेरो ट्रेनिङ प्रोग्रामले चाहिँ नि त्यो
पठाइदिएको थियो
दिस गाई इज इन ट्रेनिङ भनेपछि भिजा चाहिँ नि त पाइयो
ए भिजा चाहिँ पाइसकेको थियो पासपोर्ट चाहिँ थिएन पासपोर्ट
त्यसपछि फार्मर लेखा पासपोर्ट लिएर उडी म कि त्यो बेलाको फ्लाइट पनि वाज लाइक अ नाइटमेयर के अब खल्तीमा $100 हो कि $150 छ हैन त्यसपछि आई ह्याड literally nothing in my bag except some used clothes and mind was very very heavy and sad that you know I don't know what I'm getting into you know and always at the background you know my whole goal in going was to help my parents you know I just wanted my mom to have you know money and you know a little bit of comfort so काठमाडौँबाट दिल्लीबाट बम्बे यु नो चिप टिकट भएर बम्बेबाट बेरुटबाट प्यारिसबाट न्युयोर्क So you can imagine how it was like, by the time I arrived there, and my heart is pounding, as I entered the immigration counter in New York, and I said, what's going to happen of going for training, as a doctor, and the passport is farmer, like as a profession. So in those days, I mean, fortunately, मेरो त्यो हस्पिटलको पेपरहरू सबै क्विकली हेऱ्यो उनीहरूले एन्ड देन दिस इज डक्टर इन ट्रेनिङ एन्ड देन त्यो के हेरेन क्या ठ्याक्क लगाइदियो सो आई वेन्ट एन्ड देन माई गड आई सेड आई हेभ पास्ट वान बिग हर्डल भनेर त्यसपछि I didn't know what to do. I said, I'm going to pick up my luggage, there. Luggage finally came with the whole, there was hardly in the box, suitcase has become like a sandwich, pasted all flat. So I picked that suitcase and I just was hanging around there looking at the exit, and I saw the doors opening and closing. I had no idea about sensors and all that. I said, where is that switch, to open the door?
To exit. Yeah.
So 10 minutes जति त यसै हल्लेरै त्यहाँ बसिराखेँ. I don't know how to get caught in the, closing doors भनेर नि.
बुझ्छु.
So then finally it dawned on me, I was watching people and then I said, there's something automatic here. मलाई त्यो सेन्सर भन्ने थाहा छ. I said, केही automatic छ यहाँ भनेर I went out and त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि अब त्यो आउटसाइड द एयरपोर्ट चाहिँ नि आई सेड केही न केही त होला यहाँ मान्छे लिन आउँछ होला भनेर कुरी देन आई गट लिटल वरिड अल्सो कि धेरै टाइम बितिसक्यो देन फाइनली when I was getting little desperate, I saw somebody waving like this, and then त्यो एउटा प्ल्याकार्ड जस्तो त्यो वेभ गरेको and then नजिक आयो Dr. Ashok Banskota.
Yes.
Saved. Right. So he was a doctor from the hospital where I was going to, and we introduced ourselves and he took me to the hospital.
How old were you? 22, 23?
Yeah, but 17 मा medical school गयो हैन. 17 भर्खर लागेको हो कि अब medical school is 5.5 years. 22.5, 23.
23 मा हजुर New York City.
Yeah. 1972 July.
72 July ma.
Yeah.
Summer ma.
Yeah. And because of my, these technical issues, I was a little late for the orientation, few days late. Okay? So I reported to my surgical department and they were very nice and they assigned me to a unit and they gave me 2 or 3 pairs of white coat and white pant. Okay? And that's the clothes I wore for almost 6 years continuously. उनीहरूले नयाँ कहिले काहीँ दिन्थ्यो because हाम्रो life in those days almost completely spent in the hospital. I mean, long hours of work and then library, studying, attending courses, taking exams. There was no time for anything.
कुन अस्पताल डाक्टर साहब आज फर्केर हेर्दै?
म चाहिँ नि several hospitals मा training program को रिक्वायरमेन्ट्सहरू मिट गर्न कोनी आइल्यान्ड हस्पिटल भन्ने थियो एउटा ब्रुकलिनमा त्यसपछि माइमोनिटिज मेडिकल सेन्टर भन्ने त्यो अगेन ब्रुकलिनमा त्यसपछि द्याट वाज अन्डर डाउन स्टेट मेडिकल स्कुल त्यसपछि अल्बर्ट आइन्स्टाइन मेडिकल कलेज एन्ड हस्पिटल छ कि
कता यो चाहिँ
त्यो चाहिँ
ब्रोङ्क्समा थियो ब्रुकलिन भयो ब्रोङ्क्स भयो अरू कता जानुभयो त्यसपछि
सम स्पेसल ट्रेनिङ आई ह्याड इन जन्स हपकिन्स
त्यो यता भयो बल्टिमोरमा भयो
orthopaedic pathology and all फेरि न्युयोर्क युनिभर्सिटीमा सम स्पेसल ट्रेनिङ सो यो
इस्ट कोस्टै बस्नुभयो
धेरै इस्ट कोस्टै बसी त्यो बेलामा घुम्ने गर्ने भन्ने केही थिएन जस्ट पढाइ यस्तो इन्टेन्सिभ वी टु वर्क 120 hours a week इन द हस्पिटल होइन इट जस्ट च्याम्पटी घोट्या हुन्छ नि
कता बस्नुहुन्थ्यो अनि
सानो अपार्टमेन्ट थियो अहिले बस्न त पहिले त्यहाँ पुग्न साथ मलाई त प्रोग्रामको चाहिँ सब ट्रेनिङ हेज अलरेडी स्टार्टेड आई ह्याड मिस्ड माई ओरिएन्टेसन सो दे assigned me to a unit and they said you can stay in on-call room for some time until you find your place भनेर So there's no time to think, I went to the room assigned to me. I changed into my, working clothes and
Went to work?
त्यो बेलामा अहिले जस्तो फोन communication केही थिएन. At the back of my mind, heavy sadness, I wanted to say hello to my mother and that I have reached here safely. So कहिले भन्ने त्यो बेलामा एरोग्राम हुन्थ्यो कि चिठी लेख्ने एरोग्राम के
Aerogram?
It used to be called aerogram. You would buy it. It had the postage you write and fold it and mail it. के त्यस्तो हुन्थ्यो. Anyway, so I went to my unit.
ए चिठी हो यो एरोग्राम भन्छ यसलाई मलाई डाक्टर साहब थाहा छैन मलाई ल एरोग्राम भन्छ भनेर बिफोर माई टाइम.
So I went to my unit and the chief residents त्यो बेलामा मेडिकल सर्जिकल ट्रेनिङमा पनि एकदम हायरार्की नभनौँ अब your grade of work and all was equated with your year of training. Okay? So you started at the bottom, you do all the scut work, you do all the running around, all the difficult and things, and there's no time limit for you, when you start it's like that. Okay? So everybody just piles things on top of you. And it's really a tough year. So I went to my ward and the best people were the nurses. So I immediately hit a very nice...
you befriended them, Surumai.
Yeah. And so my first thing was, they said, oh, doctor, you have come, our, your ward coach, any resident has been missing since you didn't arrive on time. And as a saying, these are all the things that have to be done, Manera. So there is taking ECGs, starting IV lines, writing reports, and in between all this, they might call you to the emergency room for some new case and busy hospital. Okay? And then if OT starts at 8 in the morning and then some consultant or somebody would have told you to be available for that case. And so it's absolutely overwhelming. Eh? And then your teaching training program coordinator, the one who looks after the education, gives you a whole program of educational activities which classes have to be attended. America, any class, anything that is added is after work. Eh? You finish work at 6, class at 7. The work starts at 8 in the morning, be in the hospital at 6 o'clock. It was just a long day. Okay? So I remember one incident which I recall many times, starting an IV in America, okay? Intravenous सुरु गर्ने नि. अब मैले त्यति धेरै काम गरे नेपालमा त कामै गरिन हैन. एन्ड अल इन्डिया इन्स्टिट्युट इन्टर्नशिपमा त्यहाँ त त्यो बेलासम्म IV was just a needle हैन. त्यो लार्जर गेजको निडलको टिपलाई अलिकति ब्लन्ट गरेर and then we didn't have these radio-lucent tubes, radio-opaque tubes, glass bottles, blood slot, very primitive, even in All India Institute at the time. America was धेरै कुराहरु मैले देखेकै छैन. So I had a bunch of IVs to start. अब IV start गर्नलाई open a packet, and then there is one needle, there is another sleeve, and I didn't know how to start, so देखेकै थिएन. त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि अब हेड नर्स चाहिँ नि यसरी हात लगाएर उभिरहेको छ. अब डक्टरलाई अर्डर पनि गर्नु भएन कि त्यसपछि जस्ट वाचिङ. एन्ड मैले चाहिँ नि सबै त्यहाँ ग्लोभ्स लगाएँ उ गरेँ. त्यसपछि आई वाज अबाउट टु विथड्र द निडल फ्रम द प्लास्टिक क्यान्युला के. एन्ड देन the nurse tapped me on the back. He said, "Doctor, that's not done. You don't know something, you must ask. So that's not the way to do it. I'll show it to you, whatever." And then she showed me how to put IV. Okay? So nurses are very, very well informed, and especially the head nurse. Okay? हामीभन्दा यस्तो टेक्निकल कुरा त्यो बेलामा दे आर फार बेटर. सो त्यो इन्सिडेन्ट पछि चाहिँ नि आई बिकेम भेरी फ्रेन्डली. नबुझेको कुरा सोध्थेँ है. द नर्सेस वर रियली गुड. एन्ड आई इन माई day-to-day work and everything, I was very popular. All my training in All India Institute, writing notes, history, physicals. If there was a consultation in another ward to be done by my senior chief resident, they would send me, so we screen the case, we write things down and on the paper, and whatever reports I wrote, I remember in a medical ward once, the chief resident out there called me and they said, "Who wrote this summary here?" And then I said, "I did." I said, "What level of training are you in?" And I said, "I'm just starting." I said, "This is amazing. How do you know all these things, So he gave me a lot of credit. So America, my training, every year, it's like a pyramid, okay? It starts with a lot of people at the bottom.
From big foundation.
20, 30 people. And then the pyramid goes like that, narrows. People just get thrown out, okay? By the time you are in your third year, the pyramid has become very narrow. Only that narrow people finish to the end, okay? So if you get knocked out, you got to look for another place, or if you feel your program, you want to change the program to another program, you have to sit for a test and interview. And so surgery was the specialty for me. I knew I wanted to get into surgery. And so the first year in America gives you a very broad exposure to multiple specialties in surgery, and that helped me decide that I must work towards orthopedic surgery, because working with hands, and I found the morbidity of general surgical work at that time just too much. Very elderly people, complicated surgical procedures, a lot of complications, long hours in the ICU, and so I said, this is not the kind of thing that I want. So and at the end of the year, exam again. Besides your in training, every year ko end ma exam liyepachi त्यसपछि you might be taken, you might not be taken. So I had made a very good impression with my chief of surgery, and fortunately I said, since I'm getting into orthopedics, at that time this was I don't know how it is now, but orthopedic surgery was a very, very difficult subspecialty to get into. Okay, very limited seats. Everybody wanted to go in there. Very popular. So I was afraid that at some point, I might not be able to.
A part of the pyramid.
Yeah. So जहाँ आफूले इम्प्रेस गर्न सकिया छ त्यही नै बस्नु बेस्ट होला भनेर. सो यही प्रोग्राममा म चाहिँ नि आई अप्लाइड एन्ड आई गट पुस्ट अफ टु द सेकेन्ड इयर अघि. त्यसपछि त्यो एक्सपिरियन्सले झन् सजिलो भयो. एन्ड एट द सेकेन्ड इयर लेभल you do less cut work, you get more into surgery and you get more responsibility. Third year more, then you start rotating through your other hospitals, like the other hospital, that Maimonides Medical Center, which I talked about.
Bronx mein?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn mein, how's it?
It's in Borough Park in Brooklyn, and it's a very old hospital, okay? Around a very extensive Jewish neighborhood. That's the hospital where the first heart transplant in America was done. First heart transplant hospital in the world was done in Groote Schuur Hospital in South Africa, by Christian Barnard. The first heart transplant in America was done at Maimonides Medical Center by a doctor by the name of Kantrowitz, So very famous old hospital. And so in that hospital, a lot of elective work, joint replacements and all. You meet a much wider variety of consultants doing subspecialty work and introduced to more training, research and all that. And then in Albert Einstein Medical College, that was very much focused on pediatric orthopedics.
Yeah, for the kids.
Spine work and a lot of exposure to dysmorphism, developmental disorders. So I spent most of my time there in pediatrics. So very, very, very intense training. If you compute that in time frame, अहिले त द्याट वुड बी 10 years ट्रेनिङ कि बिकज हामी त 5 years त all our time in the hospital काम र जाँच
त्यो न्युयोर्कको बसाइ चाहिँ हैन एज फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि त्यहाँ तपाईले एज अ एक्सेप्ट फर यो एडुकेसन हैन के सिक्नु भयो कि अमेरिकाको बसाइमा एज अ फर्केर when you reflect back in your life हैन अमेरिकाले के सिकायो कि
अब मेरो त अब those years of my training and living in New York was largely just spent within hospital premises, completely related to my training and work. Okay? But what impressed me most is hard work, how hard work pays भन्ने कुरा नि अमेरिकामा चाहिँ नि that discipline, at least wherever I was able to observe and participate, getting to your work on time, I mean, we started work early, we finished late, and we had to come at night quite often, and I mean, we really gave our heart and soul for whatever we were doing, so, and the demand for excellence, that education is always coupled with good healthcare, that really rubbed into me, and that has stayed with me. That's why in my work here in Nepal, I tried to inculcate educational programs, side by side with training the people who worked with me.
So hard work.
Yeah.
त्यो चाहिँ हजुरले अमेरिकाबाट लिनुभयो त्यसमै
Yeah.
हैन फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि त्यो की कम्पोनेन्ट के हुन्छ नि किनभने अघि नैदेखि हजुरले अफेयर पनि मलाई अघि नै भन्नुभएको थियो हैन हामी बिहानै जान्थ्यौँ अनि त्यसपछि हामी ढिलो आउँथ्यौँ हैन त्यो थाहा नै थिएन नि त प्लस हजुर प्यासनेट पनि हुनुहुन्थ्यो नि त हैन यसलाई कामको हिसाबले लिनु भएन नि त हजुरले यो हजुरको कलिङको हिसाबले लिनु भयो नि त त्यसले गर्दा पनि एन्जोय गर्नुभयो
Yeah. So this is a extreme kind of scenario which a lot of people don't agree with, So even during the latter parts of our training years, there were, strikes and, opposition to these long hours of,
work
engagement. And things have changed now. I think people are very sensitive about life and work balance and things like that. Okay? But as far as I can say, if you want to be a good surgeon, a good doctor, you can't titrate time like that. You got to give your patients your very best, and that sometimes means working long hours.
That's with everything that you do. If you really want to be the best at what you do, you have to give in the hours.
Yeah. So there is no shortcut, There is a lot of people are looking for shortcuts, very comfortable kind of situation. Maybe some specialties, can provide that kind of life. But what I chose to do, I mean, how it has progressed in my own life, I think dedication and hard work was very important. I must say, actually, very interesting story about Anil's birth, So after the mindset with which I left Nepal, to train in America, I had absolutely no interest in getting married,
Family बनाउँछु भन्ने थिएन.
No. I said, finish my training, finish my studies, make a little money, and make my family, my mom especially, that's always at the back of my mind, make her comfortable. So actually, as soon as I got my first, paycheck, in those days, in 1972, a PGY1, first year training, we got about $11,000 a year. That's peanuts. And most of the money, you could rental apartment, $250. And because I spent most of my time in the hospital, you ate in the hospital canteen, and so really not much expense. But the first few salaries,
नेपाल पठाइदिनु हुन्थ्यो
money to I didn't
एरोग्राम गरेर पठाइदिनु हुन्थ्यो
पठाइदिए पुग्यो पनि थाहा थिएन त्यो चाहिँ नि मेरो भित्र मनमा यति उकुस मुकुस भएको थियो कि how I can help. I did that quite a number of
टिकटको पैसा पनि पठाउनु भयो
पठाएँ त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि अब मेरो ममले चाहिँ नि एउटा यो बिहाको कुरा रहेछ एन्ड देन when I was in my third year of training, very busy, and I get a letter from home saying that, अब बिहा गर्नु पर्यो भनेर नि. And my motherले चाहिँ नि told the party, I have decided my son will not say no, So it was kind of already done, by the time I got the message and a photograph. So we're maybe your age, you guys are so rebellious, and I was not thrilled and very happy, but my mom already committed, So I said, okay, I have to go home and get married. So I came, got married. I saw my wife to be for the first time, 3-4 days before our wedding. And she's turned out to be a great, great girl, Everything has worked out so well for us. And we have 3 wonderful children. And Anil was born in America, So at the time of her birth,
his birth,
I was on call that night, at the hospital. So, and I got a call from her saying, I'm not comfortable. So I asked my chief, you got so much responsibility when you are on call, and they could call you from the emergency room, and you might have to rush somebody to the OT. In those days, gunshot wounds in New York, and a very deadly place actually.
हजुर कता हुन्थ्यो? ब्रुकलिनमै हुन्थ्यो यो समयमा?
ब्रुकलिनमा. मैले त कस्तो पेसेन्टहरूलाई एम्बुलेन्समा ट्रान्सपोर्ट गरेको छु.
एक हिसाबले भन्ने हुन्थ्यो त्यहाँ त क्विन्सको पनि आउँथ्यो होला, उताको पनि आउँथ्यो होला.
अरू हस्पिटल पनि थिए हगि. इभन इन दिस हस्पिटल्स in these hospitals where I worked, especially the city hospital, आउँथ्यो त्यस्तो.
म्यानहट्टनको पनि आउँथ्यो होला हैन, त्यही ब्रुकलिनको पनि हुन्थ्यो होला हैन.
त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि so
लिभरमा जानुभयो.
she called, I went, took permission, went and got her to the hospital, got her admitted again, and then worked the whole night. In the morning at 8 o'clock, I had to be in the operating room to assist my chief, So I was assisting. He was doing a hip replacement or some hip surgery, and I was his assistant. And then I got a call from the labor department saying, just got a son, delivered. And then my chief heard, and he said, you can take half a day off. I got half a day off when I got
your first child.
No more time. So that's that.
That's the only time you got with your son.
We got only half a day off to, be with my wife when she delivered.
So interesting. So interesting. So त्यहाँ भनौँ न हजुर कुन इयरमा चाहिँ अब चाहिँ मेरो सबै सक्यो, अब चाहिँ जाम नेपाल भन्नुभयो त?
अब 1977 को एन्डमा मेरो ट्रेनिङ सबै सक्यो है. सो त्यसपछि आई ह्याड एक्जाम्स टु डु है, अमेरिकन बोर्डको एक्जामहरू. नर्मली अब अमेरिकामा एक्जाम सिस्टम पनि कस्तो थियो त्यो बेलामा भनेदेखि, यु फिनिस योर ट्रेनिङ एन्ड देन यु गेट इन टु प्र्याक्टिस, एन्ड देन आफ्टर 1 year यु क्यान अप्लाई फर एक्जामिनेसन. सो मलाई चाहिँ नि फर्किने एउटा मेन इम्पेटस एन्ड push was my dad. He wrote me several letters, so he said, we're alone here, we're 6 children, my sisters married away, and all the brothers were out of the country, My elder brother was in America in Cornell. My other brother, Kamal, was, he was, I think, in somewhere in Canada, Alberta, doing PhD. My other youngest brother was in medical school in Delhi. And so they said, my dad said, you have never worked here in Nepal, why don't you come and give it a try? You can always go back if things don't work out. And he said this several times, and he's not a frequent communicator, but when he says something, especially in the written, it really hits you very hard. And so that was always at the back of my mind. I said, I can give it a try. I just have one small child, So I decided that I'll definitely come back and give it a try. Now, so after I came back to Nepal, there were 3 occasions when I went back again, saying things are not going to work out, and I got to be prepared to actually relocate. So I came to Nepal.
Which year, sir?
End of 77, लागि.
77 मै आउनुभयो. Okay.
त्यसपछि
2 वर्षको छोरा लिएर आउनुभयो.
Ani Vivek was about to be born, so he was born while I was still in America, and I saw him for the first time when he was 8 months old, So I was there, my wife was here, I had sent her back, and so हामीहरूको त्यो बेलाको मजबुरीहरू थियो कि, so I had to sort things out. It's not easy to pass some of the exams that we have to take, and failing was not an option for me, So for some months, I sent my wife before me, and she was alone. Actually, my mother took care of her when Vivek was born, and it was a complicated delivery. So after we got back, our house in Kupundol was kind of empty, and it looks like a big house from outside, but it was run down. Like I told you, when it rained heavy, it used to leak, and there was so much plumbing work that needed to be done. The house needed to be painted. I didn't have any resources, I didn't come back with any large sum of money like that, because so I came. We used to sleep in one room, 2 rooms, on one floor, and I went and applied for a job in the Ministry of Health.
1977, 78 मा
78 तिर भनौँ न, 78 को
स्वास्थ्य मन्त्रालयमा जानुभयो मलाई कामको लागि.
त्यो बेलामा पद्मसुन्दर लावती वाज मिनिस्टर. त्यस बेलामा तारादेव भट्टराई भन्ने gentleman was the health secretary, and there was a doctor by the name Harinandan Upreti भन्ने, he was the DG. So I applied.
के पोजिसन अप्लाई गर्नुभएको छ याद छ?
I had no idea what you have to apply for. Okay, so I applied, and then everybody gave least regard for my training as a specialist, So by the time I applied, my board results, everything had come, I had passed, So,
अमेरिकामा सबै सकिसकेको थियो.
So त्यहाँ अप्लाई गर्न जाँदाखेरि मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ नि अब नेपालमा चाहिँ नि जागिर खाने प्रक्रिया यही हो, कि कन्ट्र्याक्टमा कता कताबाट आयो भने हुन्छ. Everything was completely incomprehensible to me, the system. यहाँबाट कहिले यता जाऊ भन्छ, कहिले उता जाऊ भन्छ, कहिले. And months and months and months went by, and then finally I got an appointment letter saying, house job, house officer. Okay? House officer ko post ma you have to start because this is your first appointment. Right? It's absolutely no consideration about my specialty training. So this was very, very disappointing. And some people told me, well, this is the way. I mean, go report to your work. I'm sure they will understand. And then I went B Hospital where I was supposed to report there. Okay? So by 11:30, 12, most of the people there had finished their work apparently, and they were all gathered in the medical superintendent office, guffing, talking, this, that. So I went with my appointment letter. There's a big shot sitting there and making jokes and laughing. And somebody said, oh, you're coming from America, you have made a lot of money, and why did you come back? And then after a lot of, just standing there still like a, goat waiting to be sacrificed, waiting for these big shots to, speak out. Somebody said, दिस इज यो दरबन्दी नै यस्तै हो 6 महिनाको तपाईँ चाहिँ 2 महिना अप्स गाइनी 2 महिना एनेस्थेसिया अनि सिन्स यु आर इन्ट्रेस्टेड इन अर्थोपेडिक्स 2 months अर्थोपेडिक्स त्यसपछि गेट शन्टेड अफ टु सम हस्पिटल इन बुटोल अर समवेयर के I just listened to them. I said, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. This is my degree. And nobody was prepared to listen, I mean, their main thing was there is no work, here. There is no work, We already have one person here and he's not that busy also, So I came out of that room. I thought to myself, and then that clerk out there said, Doctor, हाजिर गर्नुस् भनेर एउटा ढर्रामा एक दिन मलाई त्यहाँ हाजिर गर्न लगायो. Then I looked at him, and at that instant I said, come hell or high water, I will never work in this system,
Wow.
And I said, my dad has asked me to give it a try. I said, I will give it a try, and then, if things don't work out, we'll see. So, मैले त्यही बेलामा त्यो नियुक्ति पत्र त्यहीँ च्यातेर फ्याँकेर हिँडेँ.
च्यातिदिनु
च्यातेर फ्याँक्ने त्यो अनि दिस guy was watching me के. So after that I came home and I said what to do. So I went to Shanta Bhavan Hospital. I said I'm a surgeon, I got to keep my skills intact. जे भए पनि I want to volunteer and continue to work भनेर त्यहाँ गएँ. त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि एउटा एल्ड्रिज भन्ने डक्टर साहब हुनुहुन्थ्यो लेडी. एन्ड देन आई टोल्ड हर माई स्टोरी अनेस्टली एन्ड सी सेड डक्टर यु क्यान भलिन्टियर बट आई क्यान्ट एम्प्लोय यु बिकज वी कुड गेट इन टु ट्रबल विथ द गभर्मेन्ट. सो आई सेड ओ माई गॉड. आई सेड ओके लेट मी भलिन्टियर. सो आई स्टार्टेड वर्किङ एट शान्त भवन हस्पिटल
for free
as a volunteer, and the work entailed going to the OT and running the clinic, and then doing some teaching in the emergency room for health assistants. And at that time this medical school also had started in IIIMS, and students from there used to rotate to Shantava. There were not many hospitals at the time. There was a doctor by the name of Dickinson, and he used to be a teacher in physiology at the institute. UMN बड़े उता second भएको. So after I came, he said, Ashok, help me with the teaching. So I started taking some classes for the medical students who were rotating there, at Shanta Bhavan Hospital, working with Dr. Dickinson. So you'd ask me to do certain things. So that was part of my work.
So a 30-year-old 30 वर्ष चान्चुनको उमेर थियो होला हजुरको हैन फर्केर यसो हेर्दाखेरि
त्यसै
29 हुनुहुन्थ्यो हजुर हैन. त्यसपछि नेपाल फर्केर आउनुभयो. सरकारी नियुक्ति त पाइयो. त्यो एक दिनमै च्यातिदिनु भयो. पुग्यो हजुरलाई हैन यो सक्दिनँ म यसरी भनेर हैन. अनि त्यसपछि हजुर शान्त भवनको अस्पताल चाहिँ मलाई यसको बारेमा एकजना पहिला मान्यज्यूले भन्नुभएको थियो मलाई हैन. अहिले त त्यहाँ त अब अर्कै कुरा छ हैन अहिले त हैन. तर त्यो समयमा अस्पतालै थियो. शान्त भवन अस्पताल भन्थ्यो के भन्थ्यो?
शान्त भवन हस्पिटल थियो. एउटा डक्टर फ्लेमिङ भन्ने डक्टर फ्लेमिङ वाज अ बर्ड वाचर के ornithologist. He came to Nepal in the 50s to do a lot of study of the ornithology out here, and his wife was a physician, and then she and some other entrepreneurs who were associated with the United Mission भन्ने to Nepal एउटा Presbyterian church group ले चाहिँ नि मिलेर they started health services here in Nepal. And during that time, little later, Appipalma एउटा hospital, Okhaldunga एउटा hospital, Surya Binayak एउटा hospital, and Shanta Bhavan was the main big one.
यो चाहिँ अस्पताल हो.
That's right.
यस्तो थियो शान्त भवनको अस्पताल.
That's a beautiful picture. Yeah, I would like a picture of this.
Of course, we will send it to you. हैन. So यो थियो शान्त भवन अस्पताल हैन. So AIIMS मा St. Xavier's पढेको, AIIMS पढेको, अनि त्यसपछि अमेरिका गएर you got full 6 years of residency done.
Yeah.
फर्केर आइसकेपछि हजुरको ट्यालेन्ट, हजुरको स्किल शान्त भवनले मात्र चलाउन पायो त्यो समयमा.
अब त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि शान्त भवन हस्पिटलमा इट वाज लाइक real backward downfall के होइन. So
न्युयोर्कबाट
yeah, अब to a certain extent, because I had never worked in Nepal, pathology also, lot of new pathology that I have never seen before. So much infection, so much late presentation, so many complicated scenarios that don't exist there. Right? So it was a great learning opportunity. So, and basically the resources for delivery of services were so limited that I keep saying we literally work out of a trunk. के चाहिने मालहरू के चाहिएला भनेर गएर त्यहाँ पछाडि दराज त्यो ठुलो अनि there were trunks and you just fish things out, you know. I might need this for this operation, I might need a plate here, 7 screws here, are they all right, what is, all that homework you had to do.
कतिको पछाडि थियौँ डाक्टर साहब हामी वेस्टको हिसाबले फर्केर यता हेर्दाखेरि हामी कति बिहाइन्ड थियौँ जस्तो लाग्छ हजुर आउँदाखेरि 1978 मा.
Well, I mean, in terms of availability of equipment, implants, so we're far behind. अब सबै कुरा उनीहरूले फ्याँकेको नचलाएको है कि त्यस्तो माल मात्रै थियो. There was no service here, you know, अहिले जस्तो नि. So, but despite that, you know, lot of good work could be done. I mean, we delivered very high quality care, even with such constraints. And people used to come, visitors, all missionaries used to bring things, you know, that are not used there, that are, you know, thrown away. And we used to sort those things out and use them for our patients. Okay?
Yeah.
So we did all the common things and we did a lot of uncommon things also. त्यो बेलामा, despite this hospital being so primitive in its physical infrastructure, at the time it closed down to relocate to Patan Hospital. There was a pediatric surgeon there doing very complicated work. There was a cardiac surgeon doing closed mitral valvotomies. There was a head and neck surgeon. There was a urologist, Dr. Baide. There was myself. So we were 6 subspecialists, you know, delivering very high quality care. You know? A lot of surgery during that time was, you know, open procedures. You know, we didn't have so much endoscopy. Dr. Baide introduced endoscopic urological services there. So we did a lot of work and I became very busy, but I was not making any money, you see.
सबै voluntary थियो.
त्यसपछि के भयो भनेदेखि काममाथि काम थप्यो, but no income. यो लेप्रोसी हस्पिटल भन्ने छ नि आनन्दवनमा, there is a leprosy
कुष्ठरोगको अस्पताल छ,
run by a leprosy mission. अब अहिले चाहिँ त यहाँ मन्त्रालयले नै लियो के अरे पहिला. So त्यो बेलामा every Wednesday that hospital used to run a clinic at Shantabhavan Hospital. So leprosy patients also have a lot of extremity problems, okay? Infections, auto amputation, nerve paralysis, deformities. So त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि आउने डक्टरहरूसँग मेरो सम्पर्क भयो and they requested me for help, you know, at one point. So I said, why not? You know, I'm going to learn. And I donated 1 day a week to leprosy hospital. There I used to go. They used to send a jeep to pick me up. I used to go there, operate on all these leprosy patients. And these are people who are considered outcasts in the society, you know.
डाक्टर साहब म अफ ट्र्याक गएँ अहिले होइन. हामी सानो हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ मलाई याद छ महजोडीको होइन, महजोडीको मैले चाहिँ ऊ देखेको याद छ कि मलाई एडभर्टिजमेन्ट कि टेलिभिजनमा, नेपाल टेलिभिजनमा कुष्ठरोगको बारेमा कि कुष्ठरोग. अब म त 80s को बच्चा भएँ होइन, लेट 80s को बच्चा हो म चाहिँ होइन. कुष्ठरोगको समस्या भनौँ न यो कति ठुलो थियो?
Well, at one point in time, it was really big, but it has now, to a very large extent, been, you know, controlled.
हजुर आउँदाखेरि कि हजुर फर्किँदा 80s मा के
म आउँदाखेरि त अझै पनि थियो, okay? I used to, even sitting in my clinic, diagnose patients with leprosy, okay? So this program has worked very well, I think, but unfortunately, those patients who never received treatment, who received treatment late after, you know, nerve damage has occurred, develop deformities के
हाम्रोमा कसरी यो भनौँ न अब यो एकदम आई एम नट अभियसली म मेडिकल ब्याकग्राउन्डको त होइन होइन कुष्ठरोगलाई इराडिकेट गर्नलाई हामीले कस्तो स्टेप्स चलायौँ जस्तो लाग्छ हजुरलाई नेपालले
भेरी भेरी गुड ओके भेरी गुड अब यो इराडिकेसन प्रोग्राम चाहिँ नि नेपालले पनि प्रब्ली वर्ल्ड वाइड नै जुन उ थियो त्यसबाटै सिकेको होला इन्डियामै देयर इज अ ह्युज प्रोग्राम स्पेसली साउथ इन्डियामा इन्स्टिट्युसन्स हेभ प्लेड अ भेरी बिग रोल अब यहाँ चाहिँ नि नेपालको कुष्ठरोग सङ्घ त्यसपछि लेप्रोसी मिसन टु नेपाल यु नो सम charitable groups, they have all played a very important role, made drugs available, you know, for free and established clinics in different parts of Nepal. So it has, I think, been pretty effective.
So हफ्ताको एक दिन चाहिँ हजुरले कुष्ठरोगको लागि भनेर
त्यो बेलामा this is long time back है So management of patients with established disease and deformity was a challenge. One of the things is लेप्रोसीले चाहिँ नि इट इन्भल्भ्स द पेरिफरल नर्भ्स के सो पेरिफरल नर्भहरू ड्यामेज भयो भने हात कुजिँदै जान्छ यु गेट अ क्ल ह्यान्ड यु गेट
फिट
डिफर्मिटी सो यस्तो कुरा चाहिँ नि अर्थोपेडिक ह्यान्ड सर्जरीले क्यान इम्प्रुभ फङ्सन के सो त्यस्तो काम गर्न थालेँ मैले कहिले पनि गरेको थिइनँ त्यो सो अर्को कुरा चाहिँ नि त्यहाँ काम गर्दाखेरि यु आर ट्रिटिङ पिपल हु फर एभरेज पर्सन अब कुष्ठरोग भनेपछि छोयो भने पनि सर्ने सो दोज पिपल आर लाइक आउटकास्ट इन सोसाइटी के सो द्याट एक्सपिरियन्स एक्चुली गेभ मी आई थिङ्क एक्सलेन्ट ह्युमेन लुक टुवर्ड्स द डिसएडभान्टेज द पुवर यु नो द आउटकास्ट एन्ड यहाँ काम गर्दा गर्दै चाहिँ नि आई टेल यु अ भेरी इन्ट्रेस्टिङ स्टोरी अबाउट my own personal life in which my wife, you know, used to naturally question me, you know, what is happening, you know, where you are going to the hospital, this, that, over no work, you know. So, मैले चाहिँ मेरो छोरी पनि जन्मेकी 78 मा she was about maybe 5-6 years old at the time के so I said actually you all come with me नि भनेर I took them to Anandaban Leprosy Hospital के and I showed them around and then part of my work that day was to do an operation, you know, on a patient. So I said, you come and see, you know, how. So I started doing the operation, very simple OT, and my wife is also gowned and masked. My little daughter is also gowned and masked, and I'm doing this work and I'm showing compassion, kindness, and then both of them have tears in their they're both crying. Okay? I have a picture of them also there in the OT. So after that, I think my wife also very, very supportive of whatever, you know, I did, despite all the initial headaches and heartaches and, you know, I think she realized that we are actually doing something extremely special.
हजुरले भनिरहेको बेलामा मलाई एउटा तस्विर याद आयो कि जुन तस्विर चाहिँ लेडी डायनाले चाहिँ एड्सको पेसेन्टहरू तलले एड्स माफ पाउँ एचआइभी लागेको थियो होइन उहाँहरूसँग हात मिलाएको एउटा भेरी फेमस तस्विर छ कि होइन फ्रम प्रब्ली त्यस 80s होला जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई होइन 80s 90s होइन जहाँ चाहिँ एचआइभीलाई त एकदम अब ट्याबु नै हिसाबले संसारले हेरे हो नि त एट वान पोइन्ट होइन अनि प्रिन्सेस डायना शेक्स ह्यान्ड्स विथ एन एड्स पेसेन्ट रहेछ विदाउट द ग्लोभ्स इन 1991 छ कि होइन अनि यसपछि चाहिँ मान्छेलाई हेर्ने नजरिया के होइन अब यो स्ट्याचरको व्यक्तिले नै अब हात मिलाइसकेपछि चाहिँ त्यो एचआइभी एड्सलाई हेर्न नजरिया फरक भएको थियो कि संसारमा होइन
मैले पनि हात मिलाएको छु उहाँसँग
ए हो र हजुर लेडी डायना भेट्नु भएको
छ सी भिजिटेड नेपाल वन्स अब म चाहिँ नि यो एचआरडिसी हस्पिटल सुरु गरेपछि त्यो फर्स्ट लोकेसन वेयर द हस्पिटल वाज लोकेटेड देयर इज ए orphanage called the Ryder Cheshire Home, okay? Which was actually initially, I don't know what it is now, but it is a British funded project, yeah?
No.
And so the British ambassador used to visit and Princess Diana visited Nepal that time, and because I had gotten to know him, and I was looking after those patients there, I was also invited to this reception in the British Embassy. Okay?
Find some pictures of Princess Diana in Nepal. I didn't know that.
Then, as she was meeting people like that all around,
That's her in Nepal, right?
हात मिलाएर you are an orthopod, this that भनेर उहाँले
Wow, all tall जाऊ त
एम्बेसीको पार्टीमा हो.
यो कुन इयरको कुरा रहेछ यो?
इयर चाहिँ नि
हामी हेरौँला हजुर. माथि जाऊ त, इयर हेर त कुन इयरमा आउनु भएको रहेछ.
86 87 हो कि त्यस्तै.
Go up. This is 1993 मा रहेछ. Princess Diana Nepal tour रे.
1993
3 को रहेछ. 3 तिर रहेछ त्यसपछि. पहिला पनि आउनु भएको थियो कि हैन? थाहा छैन मलाई यो चाहिँ. Interesting.
Anyway, I have shook hands with her and spoken for a minute or two.
Very interesting. So anyways, you were talking about leprosy, हैन? अनि त्यसपछि how did your life transform त त्यसपछि? अब पैसा त चाहियो अलिअलि.
Well, anyway, so I was busy there, and so I was working at Shantabhavan Hospital. I was working at doing 1 day of work at Anandaban Leprosy Hospital. I was again, I happened to meet one doctor from Argentina, you know, in 1982. यो चाहिँ नि अनिललाई गोदावरी भर्ना गर्न लगेको बेलामा फादर मोरानलाई चाहिँ नि उहाँको ह्याम रेडियोको बारे चाहिँ नि कुरा गर्न आएछ. ह्याम रेडियो भनेको यु नो दिस
I don't know. Ham radio?
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for, but anyway, it's a shortwave radio system where people old
Transistor जस्तो यो okay यो satellite radio जस्तो.
There's a group of people, satellite
चाहिँ हैन communicate गर्न मिल्ने. Okay.
So Father Moran had that, and he had a special code, and because he was located in Nepal, he's very famous all over the world. Okay, and with his radio system at that time, he would be able to give news about things that happened in this part of the world before anybody else. Like when Tenzing Hillary climbed Mount Everest, the first person to know and give this news to the world was Father Moran.
In the 50s?
Yeah. So anyway, यो अर्जेन्टिनाबाट आएको डक्टर, he's a Seventh-day Adventist, stationed at Share Memorial Hospital. के अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि अब कम्युनिकेसन त्यो बेलामा अहिले जस्तो थिएन नि. He had to communicate with his mother in Argentina. So he heard about this and he came to meet Father Moran. And Father Moranले चाहिँ नि अब मलाई त्यहाँ अनिललाई भर्ना गर्न लगेको. He met me. He said, "Oh, you come and meet my student here. He's also a doctor." So the moment Dr. Vinia, his name was Dr. Vinia, he met me. He said, "You are an orthopedic surgeon. I don't know anything about orthopedics. I need help, brother." भनेर नि उनले भन्यो. So I said, okay. I then started going to Share Memorial Hospital. मैले त अब in 1 week I was doing 2 days, 4 days, 2 days of Shantabhavan. I used to spend about 4 days. 1 day there,
leprosy man,
and 1 day in Banepa. Thursday, every Thursday there. They used to collect cases the whole week, difficult work, and then I would go and do that, you know, clear out all their operative log, and he would also help me. And I did that for more than 5 years, you know, regularly. So I was a volunteer all over, very busy, and I was re-educating myself, you know, with what is pathology like in Nepal. And I had some really terrible life-transforming experiences with patients, you know, so which really...
Does they? Like what? Give me an example.
Well, there was a little boy, I even remember his name. I often use his story to in certain talks. His name was Kaziman Chepang, you know.
Kaziman Chepang.
Dhading Kokata gaउँको बच्चा. Family was so poor that at one point in time the family said, well, you go and work somewhere. He's just about 8-9 years old, you know. So this boy left home and finds a nearby tea stall on the highway somewhere, you know, walking. And he's given meals to eat, and he has to clean the pots and cups and buses stop by and people, comfort. You know how Nepali highways are where...
कुन ठाउँको कुरा यो कतातिरको हाइवे हो
धादिङबाट यता आउने मेन हाइवेमा कतातिर हो. So part of his work also was to help people ferry their luggage and all. This 8-9-year-old boy, and he used to sleep on the bench by the roadside, and he was just lucky that he was given meals to eat. And one night when bus stopped there, somebody was unloading some luggage and this boy was trying to help. Something fell on his back and he got injured and he became paralyzed. His legs stopped working. So nobody knew what to do. So he lay there by the roadside for a while. I don't know how long, till some good Samaritan, put him on a bus and send him, and they took him to our central hospital here in B&B Hospital. So the child was taken there. I don't know what happened there, but my involvement in Santavavan Hospital, when I was there one morning, Father Gaffney showed up with this child, and this boy was sick looking, and I told you Father Gaffney had an orphanage and he had some social workers that were coordinating help work at, I think, B&B Hospital, and they found this child and brought him there. So this child was so sick, he was paralyzed below the waist, he had pus draining from his hips, the bones were infected, and I looked at him, I examined him, and I said, Father, what do you want me to do? I also don't know where to start and what to do. He said, just save his life. So it was such a tall order, I looked at the boy's face and I said, if I have to save his life, I have to dismember him, take out both his legs at the hip. And then Father said, do it. So I ended up doing what is called a bilateral hip disarticulation. So I took, the boy is just left with his torso, It's all rotten and infected. Hips were full of pus. And then we had to use, he didn't have control of his bladder and urine, bowel bladder. त्यसको लागि चाहिँ नि डाक्टर वैद्य आउनुभएको थियो त्यो बेलामै आइसक्नु भएको थियो. We were already friends. He did a diversion procedure for the urine and stool. So दुईटा bag यहाँ झुन्ड्याएर. So after that we got him healed and fever settled. Fatherले चाहिँ नि उसलाई एउटा wheelchair किनिदिनु हो कि where सानो सिट जस्तोमा बक्समा बस्थ्यो. एउटा motorized wheelchair नै पछि कहाँबाट he got him one, and so this boy's life was saved, and I think he lived for a couple of years after that. I used to see him, but that smile never came back on his face. He was always a very sad child. Can you imagine living like that without your legs? And so that memory is still vivid with me, and I saw so many children and patients with deformities, illnesses that could have been prevented, that could have been better dealt with. So at the background of my mind, I said, if opportunities come, I'm going to grab them here, and I'm going to just deal a death blow. So, and then it was in 1984 that somebody told me that there is an organization. Before I go on to that, I must talk about Dr. Archie Fletcher. Okay? So this...
I've heard this name. I've heard this name from somebody's...
Maybe my own children. This was the superintendent of the Santavavan Hospital changed. Okay? So program had started for the transition of Santavavan to Patan Hospital, that this hospital was going to close down. And so during that transition period, the head of the hospital changed and a doctor by the name of Archie Fletcher came, to be the chief out there. Okay? So he was actually a seasoned missionary surgeon. His father was also a missionary. His son is also now still a missionary. So he was born in Korea, but he's American and trained thoracic surgeon. Okay? And he spent his almost entire career in India, in a place called Miraj in Maharashtra, I think. Setting up a medical college there and developing different services. So Dr. Fletcher came here as the new medical superintendent, and just within the week that he arrived, he called me to his office, So he said, Ashok, I'm so glad to meet you. You've been working here already for 2-3 years, and look, you are a volunteer. And he said, that's unfair. And he was sitting on his desk. He pulled up a drawer like that and brought out an envelope. And he said, this is an apology. He gave me an envelope. And he said, from today, I have worked in this part of the world for a long time. And nobody can give you a big salary here. So open a little clinic in town, At that time, I had not even opened a clinic. My whole focus, I thought things have to get better, because I have my skills, I am young, so I'll, suffer a little bit for a while.
30s ma hununthyo haina?
So by that time, I had excellent support from my wife also, so we are managing. We used to sleep on the floor. We had 3 little children. I used to ride an old bicycle, so cycle
चलाएर जानुहुन्थ्यो जता जाने?
त्यो cycle पनि somebody gave it to me. I didn't buy it. So, but anyway, I was happy, I had my hands full, and I realized that, this is my calling, I'm not going back anywhere, and I'm going to face all my challenges right here. So Dr. Fletcher Lechani, he told me, open a clinic, and he said, don't look at the clock. You come here, do your work. There is no time for you. If there is no work, you don't have to stay. You are so honest and been so well trained, and so उसले चाहिँ मलाई एकदम freedom नै दियो कि. And then I went home and I said, Dr. Fletcher gave me something. I said, you open it, I gave it to my wife. And there was a check for 10,000 rupees.
Wow.
So that was something. And then he told me, from today you are employed, but your salary is going to be 1,600 rupees a month. But first salaried amount, they were 1,600 rupees mahina. So this was, I got a little, naturally elated. We पुतली सडकमा एउटा सानो छिडी जस्तो कोठा खोज्यौँ है, अनि I set up a date and started seeing patients in the evening.
के थियो उसको नाम? यो चाहिँ
नामजाम केही थिएन, आफ्नै क्लिनिक, आफैले साइनबोर्ड बनाएर सडकमा आफै साइनबोर्ड ठोकेर स्टुल बोक्दै म, मेरो वाइफ र एउटा हेल्पर. अनफर्चुनेटली त्यो साइनबोर्ड ठोकेको चाहिँ नि शिवरात्रिको 1 दिन अगाडि थियो कि. सो भोलिपल्ट क्लिनिकमा आउँदाखेरि त आफ्नो साइनबोर्डै जोगीहरूले तानेर, इट वाज नट हाई इनफ. सो द्याट वाज काइन्ड अफ अ ब्याड स्टार्ट, बट इट वाज अ भेरी स्मल क्लिनिक. बट देन क्लिनिक सुरु भएपछि पेसेन्ट स्टार्टेड टु कम, एन्ड आई स्टार्टेड टु मेक सम मनी एभ्री इभिनिङ. आई युज्ड टु स्टे इन माई क्लिनिक. Dr. N.C. Rai भन्ने एउटा आई डक्टर हुनुहुन्थ्यो त्यो बेलामा. He had his clinic on the top floor. He had a long, big office, and patients would come, and initially, I used to just watch the show and wait for my patients.
19 कतिको कुरा यो?
यो चाहिँ नि
80?
Let me see, maybe 1982, 83 जस्तै होला.
82, before my time. अनि त्यसपछि
चाहिँ नि, but after a while, my clinic started to pick up, and I started to get patients who needed surgical work, who needed, so I was not about to say, go there, it can't be done, त्यो बेलामा 82 मा Dr. Vaidya पनि आइसक्नु भएको थियो. He's also very bold, and whatever सो हाम्रो चाहिँ नि
हजुरको दोस्ती भइसकेको थियो त्यहाँ उता भेटिसक्नु भएको थियो दोस्ती थियो
मेरो उता क्याजुअल थियो यहीँ आएर राम्रो दोस्ती भएको हो तर हामी भेटेको शान्त भवनमै हो अनि त्यसपछि त्यो बेलामा प्राइभेट काम गर्ने ठाउँमै भएन सो डाक्टर वैद्यले र मैले चाहिँ नि स्काउट राउन्ड गऱ्यौँ यहाँ ज्ञानेश्वरमा डाक्टर लोइनी भन्ने हुनुहुन्थ्यो एउटा आर्मीको डाक्टर के
मलाई हेरे जस्तो लाग्छ डाक्टर आरपी लोनीले मलाई हेरे
सो उहाँको क्लिनिकमा चाहिँ नि सानो अपरेटिङ सेटअप थियो हामी चाहिँ नि वी स्टार्टेड युजिङ हिज क्लिनिक टु डु आवर सर्जरी के भेरी भेरी
त्यो टाइममा ज्ञानेश्वरमा
त्यहाँ पनि गरियो सर्जरी त्यसपछि क्लिनिक चाहिँ नि एक दुई ठाउँ त्यहाँ ठाउँ साङ्ग्रो भयो कमलादीमा एउटा कोठामा सरी त्यसपछि अलि ठुलो हामी सानतिनो कुराहरू सर्जरी गर्नुपर्ने कुरा हो डाक्टर लोइनीको क्लिनिकमा लगेर गर्थ्यौँ सो हाम्रो दोस्ती पनि अब हामीले चाहिँ नि प्र्याक्टिस गर्नलाई अब केही न केही मिलाउनु पर्छ भनेर चाहिँ नि वी स्टार्टेड टु थिङ्क वी बिकेम फ्रेन्ड्स त्यो बेलामा शान्त भवन एट इट्स पिक ह्याड लट अफ सर्भिसेस के एकदम फिजिकल प्रेमिसेस अलिकति आर्केइक भए पनि देयर वर ग्रुप अफ डक्टर्स हु आर डुइङ डक्टर फ्लेचर इज अ कार्डियक सर्जन उसले त्यो बेलामा क्लोज माइट्रल भ्याल्भोटमी गर्थ्यो त्यहाँ शान्त भवनमा
ओके सो आई वोन्ट नो व्हाट दैट इज
यु नो टाइट भ्याल्भ्सहरू चाहिँ नि यो माइट्रल स्टिनोसिस अब रुमेटिक डिजिजहरूमा हुने अब एनिवे बिग सर्जरी फर यु नो दोज टाइम्स होइन इन सच अ स्पार्सली इक्विप्ड हस्पिटल है त्यसपछि he taught me a lot. Mata, I have seen and worked and trained under a lot of big people, but I consider Dr. Fletcher, who was in Nepal, as my mentor. Okay, उसले चाहिँ नि मलाई सही सल्लाह, you know. He told me you have made the right thing by coming back
to Nepal.
You know, and he said, yeah, चाहिँ नि how you should move ahead to, you know, work. You know, you have to practice. Open a clinic that will develop, and then उसले मलाई spine surgery सिकायो, you know, how to do thoracotomies and TB स्पाइनहरू एकदम कमन नि त्यस्तो कुरा हामीले उता ट्रेन गरेका थिएनौँ. सो उसले सर्जरीमा पनि धेरै कुरा सिकायो. अनि एकचोटि त्यही बेलामा डाक्टर फ्लेचर चाहिँ नि वाज भेरी डिसपोइन्टेड विथ यु नो सम पिपुल. आनन्दवन लेप्रोसी हस्पिटलमा भेलोरको एउटा डक्टरले चाहिँ नि आएर हि वाज गिभिङ स्पेसल कोर्स अन ह्यान्ड सर्जरी के डक्टर सिल्भा पाण्डियन भन्ने डक्टर भेरी फेमस ह्यान्ड सर्जन इज नो लङ्गर अ लाइफ. एनिवे डक्टर फ्लेचर रोट अ रेकमेन्डेसन फर मी टु अल्सो अटेन्ड द्याट कोर्स एट आनन्दवन लेप्रोसी हस्पिटल वेयर आई वाज अलरेडी यु नो कन्ट्रिब्युटिङ 1 day a week. अब द कोर्स वाज अन्डर द अम्ब्रेला अफ द गभर्मेन्ट अफ नेपाल के एन्ड द मिनिस्ट्री अफ हेल्थ. So the course was conducted in that hospital, practical course.
त रिसाको किन?
अब मलाई चाहिँ नि I went there to attend the course. They didn't let me attend the course. I was so it was so embarrassing and so humiliating. And when the course was about to start, the people, the health ministry को अथोरिटिजहरूले यो डक्टरलाई चाहिँ नि यहाँबाट यो प्रेमिसबाट नपठाइकन वी वान्ट स्टार्ट भनेर
किन डाक्टर
दे गट अ ट्याक्सी. यु सुड आस्क देम, यु नो. मलाई द्याट्स वाइ आई हेभ सच लिटल रिगार्ड फर द पिपल हु रन दिस सर्भिसेस कि
त्यो समयमा
मलाई एउटा ट्याक्सीमा हालेर दे सेन्ड मी अवे कि. एन्ड दि पिपल विथ हुम आई वाज इन्भल्भ इन the routine weekly work was so apologetic they couldn't do anything.
बेचारा
त्यस्तो
किन भनेर अहिलेसम्म थाहा छैन हजुरलाई.
यहाँ त सिस्टमै इज सो रटन नि. द्याट्स वाइ बिग चेन्जेस निडेड टु ह्यापन हियर.
वाउ त्यो समयमा होइन. अनि त्यसपछि काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होमको बारेमा मलाई भन्नु न थोरै. मैले सुनेको थिएँ यसको बारेमा.
अब वी हेभ टक्ड नाउ अबाउट यु नो हाउ we started doing some private work and Dr. Vaidya and I got together.
अनि ophthalmologist एकजना के अरे डाक्टर राईको पनि थियो.
अब बिसाइड्स द्याट मेरो चाहिँ नि यो अरू एक्सपिरियन्सेसबाट चिल्ड्रेनको लागि चाहिँ नि यु नो विथ द एक्सपिरियन्सेस एन्ड द्याट आई वाज ह्याभिङ I said, if I get opportunities, I want to do something special for them. So Dr. Vaidya is a real entrepreneur, he's a gung-ho type of guy, so he can take some bold decisions quickly. So Santa Bhavan चाहिँ नि बन्द हुने भएपछि चाहिँ नि I was not actually inducted, they said this is going to be a kind of a general community hospital. We don't need super specialists like you. So I was disbanded. So here I was again. I was volunteering at Share Memorial and I was Santa Bhavan बन्द भएपछि उता आनन्द वनमा पनि जाने गर्ने मेरो बन्द भयो. त्यसपछि त्यही बेलामा चाहिँ नि डाक्टर वैद्य आए and Dr. I.L. Acharya, late Dr. I.L. Acharya and Dr. N.C. Rai, late N.C. Rai. मेरो उहाँहरूसँग भन्दा डाक्टर वैद्यको राम्रो सम्पर्क थियो के. But because Dr. Vaidya and I were together and we knew that we could complement each other well, okay? So he was able to say to the other two that, Ashok also has to be a partner here. Because so चारजना त्यसरी मिलेको, although he knows those other two better than I do. So we said we open a clinic, where we can admit patients, do surgery, and we need to take a little loan, and we have to put in some money together, seed money. We used to have little meetings in Dr. Rai's home in Kumari Party, and so we just set a date, and in 1985 ko December ma Kathmandu Nursing Home opened its doors, So it's a 60-bedded, kind of approximately 60-bedded facility with 2 operating rooms. Very simple setup.
कुन ठाउँमा यो? त्रिपुरेश्वरमा काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होम. यो भनेर हजुरको फर्स्ट भेन्चर भयो
हो. भेरी सिम्पल. बट अब हामी दुईजनाको प्र्याक्टिस चाहिँ नि अब त्यो बेलासम्म मेरो क्लिनिक सिद्धि पलिक्लिनिकमा थियो कि. सो डाक्टर वैद्यस क्लिनिक वाज इन
सिद्धि पलिक्लिनिक भनेको हाम्रो दिल्ली बजारको. म गएको छु त्यहाँ, म त्यहाँ पनि भर्ना भएको छु केरलामा.
सेभरल इयर्स आई वाज देयर. आई वाज अलरेडी भेरी बिजी के. सिद्धि पलिक्लिनिकमा हुँदाखेरि पनि त्यहाँ हामी सानोतिनो सर्जरी, प्लास्टर वर्क एन्ड अल दिस थिङ्स आई युज टु डु एन्ड वी युज टु सेडेट पेसेन्ट्स, सो आई हाम्रो एनेस्थेटिक कलिग्सलाई सोधेर शान्तवनमा काम गर्ने एनेस्थेटिक कलिग्सहरू चाहिँ नि जेनरली आर्मी हस्पिटलबाट आउनुहुन्थ्यो त्यहाँको मिसनरी डक्टरलाई रिप्लेस गर्न कि अन हिज हलिडेज. सो डाक्टर पुष्पदास श्रेष्ठ, डाक्टर बलबहादुर सुवार भन्ने 2 जना हुनुहुन्थ्यो. एन्ड देन त्यो क्लिनिकमा चाहिँ नि सिडेट गर्न थालेपछि त यु हेभ टु बी प्रिपेयर्ड फर इमर्जेन्सी, होइन. सो मैले उहाँहरूलाई सोधेर चाहिँ नि मलाई आई निड एन असिस्टेन्ट, हु क्यान ह्यान्डल द एयरवे वेन मतलब फ्र्याक्चर रिडक्सनहरू गर्थेँ. आई युज टु डु लिटल सर्जरिज एन्ड अल देयर के, गिभिङ इन्ट्राभिनस केटामिन एन्ड थिङ्स लाइक द्याट. सो आई गट एन असिस्टेन्ट देयर हु was working in the army hospital, who became my assistant for a long time, and he could handle the airway, put a mask, I had an oxygen cylinder by my side there. हामी चाहिँ नि काम आएपछि जहिले पनि we grabbed the bull by the horns. That's why I think we are successful. We never said यहाँ हुँदैन, बाहिर जाऊ, ऊ गर, यो गर के जे कुरा पनि. अब त्यही कन्टेक्स्टमा I'll tell you an interesting story. One day when I was in this Siddhi Polyclinic, panting and gasping, one foreign lady came swinging an x-ray like this, okay? And then emergency. I said, let me have a look at this x-ray. I looked at the x-ray. I said, this is not a human x-ray. I said, where is the patient? And then she said, the patient is not here. I said, who is the patient? And she said, it is a dog's x-ray.
सिद्धि पलिक्लिनिकमा कुकुरको एक्सरे लिएर आएको.
कुकुरको एक्सरे लिएर आएको. And the person was so panicky. And then I said, calm down, what is it? I said, I'm not a veterinary doctor. And then she said, but you are a bone doctor.
Bone doctor.
I said, yes, I am an orthopedic surgeon, but I said, but I don't take care of animals and things like that. I said, you got to help me. And I said, what's the story? So she said, her neighbor, who is also some expatriate and was going out, and they had given charge of their pet dog to them, and then one day this dog, just managed to sneak out of the gate and run and got hit by a scooter or bike and broke the leg, and they're away. I've got to get this treated, and I went to the veterinary doctor and he says he doesn't do this kind of surgery and he sent me to you. And she said, please doctor, you must help me. So she was so desperate that I said, okay, I'll fix it for you. So I said, who's going to give the anesthesia to the animal? And then he said that vet will do it. And I said, where do you do the surgery? And he said, in his clinic. So I went there. Next day, I went there and I operated on this dog. I fixed the broken bones with plates and screws. And the wounds healed well. And then I never saw the patient again.
The patient again. What was the name of the dog? Do you remember?
No, but I met this lady some months later, And then I said, how is my patient? And then she said, doctor, the patient must be very well because he's chasing the girls in the neighborhood.
Congratulations on that too. When duty calls, anything that breathes, you have to fix the human was animal was.
I've treated patients attacked by rhinos. You want to hear that story?
Of course I want to hear that story. Chitonma ki Bordiyatire?
Chitonma. 3-4 patient hereछु मैले rhino-le. But this particular one was I think a Fulbright scholarship through आएको एउटा चाहिँ नि scholar के. He was from Hawaii. That much I remember. I forget his name now. And this whole story that I'm about to relate to you was printed and written in a journal, and he sent that to us. That's why I'm able to recount many things that I was not present there. I was just present in his treatment. So anyway, he had a little girl, 8-year-old girl, and on her birthday, they wanted to give her a present, and they decided that to take her a tour to Chiton, National Park. And father, mother, daughter, they were on a hiking tour inside the Chiton National Park, and they were with a group, but these guys kind of strayed away, you see, and he was a photographer taking pictures here, there, and got completely lost in his thing, and he was taking picture of rhino, getting closer, and then at one point, the rhino just got excited, and this little daughter had the common sense to go and hide behind a tree right there, okay? And it attacked this guy, and it knocked him on the ground, gas here, and then in his story, he says at one point his leg was in the rhino's mouth, So, lachar pachar garera, and then he says that he had the common sense to just still himself and pretend as if he was dead. Okay? When something does not respond, these animals kind of back out, okay? As if it is dead. So, this guy just stayed still, and rhino stood for a while and then backed out. Okay? Then group le aera ullai त्यहाँ local hospital ma lagyo, and then त्यसपछि त्यो बेलामा फोन नहुने बट शान्तभवन हस्पिटलमा चाहिँ नि मेसेज आयो द्याट rhino attack patient is being brought and he's very, very sick. Chitonbad. So they brought him, I think it was next day and all. Ab usko चाहिँ नि wife was so panicky naturally. He had multiple rib fractures and big wounds in his leg and thigh. No limb fracture. त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ नि we took care of him, but he required blood for transfusion. And the lady said, no blood from our blood bank here. Okay? She was very adamant. She said, I'll donate blood. Our group milcha. So we're also having problems with his breathing. You rib fracture, you get what is called a flail chest. Okay?
Flail chest, yeah. Okay.
Normally when you breathe, your chest expands. Yeah. When your chest is flail, when you breathe, it collapses completely. So, त्यस्तोमा चाहिँ नि ventilatory support ventilation सो शान्तवन हस्पिटलमा त त्यो बेलामा आइसियु केही थिएन. They had an old Mickey Mouse type of respirator, whereas which has got a fixed rate and volume. त्यो ल्याएम, त्यो पेसेन्टलाई इन्ट्युबेट गरेर त्यसमा राखेपछि बल्ल बल्ल the ribs started to splint a little bit. It was very difficult for the first few days. But then his wife donated blood. She donated about 2-3 pints of blood over a period of 3-4 weeks. The patient was with us for some time. अनि घाउहरू पनि ठुल्ठुलो थियो, सबै stabilized भयो. Finally, he was able to travel and he went back, and then he wrote this thing in a journal and sent it back to us. So
interesting, eh?
एउटा इन्सिडेन्टमा चाहिँ नि अब the king had a trip to make to the UK for some military related issue, Gorkhazarko ni, and he was due to travel, I think, in a week's time, and his foot suddenly, became painful. Gout ko attack त्यस्तै हुन्छ के.
राजा वीरेन्द्रको कुरा गर्दैछौँ हामी.
Yeah. So his physician at the time was Dr. Pahadi, and at least at the time. Later on, Dr. Mrigendras Pandey and Dr. What's rest? He just passed away. Army ko doctor sahab hununtyo. So I got a call. I was in the clinic actually in Kathmandu nursing home. So
your 90s ke kura ho yo?
This must have been definitely in the
late 80s?
Late 80s or early 90s.
हजुर.
So afternoon थियो, I went and त्यहाँबाट बोलाएपछि तुरुन्त जानु पर्यो दरबारमा.
हजुर.
अनि त्यहाँ I examined His Majesty. He was already on some medications the doctor had prescribed, and so I gave my opinion. I said travel joint was already swollen. I said I would use another medication, and I think giving an injection here is probably the best treatment for a early quick response. And then the king, the physician, अर्को दिन मिलाउला त्यस्तो के कुरा गर्नुभएको थियो. अब the kingले चाहिँ नि गर्न मिल्छ भने गर्ने अहिले नै भनेर. So I had to go back again, get all the medicines, injections, ल्याएर I injected the swollen joint and prescribed new medication.
Overwhelming हुँदो रहेछ दरबार जाँदाखेरि. मैले जेन्युनली हजुरलाई सोधेँ त्यो टाइममा.
त्यस्तो हुँदैन थियो मलाई त. I didn't feel that way. अब I actually, sometimes people like to, they tended to bully you, I remember I visited the palace many times. And I remember once I went, and I didn't have a cap, and somebody said, you can't go without a cap, and somebody said, wear his cap and go. I said, I won't, So I resisted. So people on the sides and all try to, enforce their own ideas and rules about how you should meet the king and how you should behave. But from my limited experience and exposure with them, I mean, they were very gentle people.
कस्तो थिए राजा वीरेन्द्र आज फर्केर हजुरले भन्नु पर्दाखेरि सर?
Very, very gentle. I can't speak beyond my experiences there. I remember once I got a call from the palace saying I need to come there right away.
दरबारमा गइहाल्नु पर्यो.
So मैले चाहिँ नि म पनि अब यहाँ काम गरेर seeing all the bureaucrats and all, I kind of stood on my own thing. My daughter was arriving from Bangalore. I had to go to pick her up at the airport, and she was just studying in boarding school there. So हामीले plan बनाइसकेका थियौँ. So I said, I can't come. And I said, I already have, हुनु पनि थियो, I mean, I had to go to pick up my daughter. So I said, I can't come now. And then whoever gave me that message were kind of shocked. And then after some time they said, okay, never mind. But then I got a call again the next day saying, could you come and see him, you know? So I went there and they were and Nirajan had broken his clavicle, you know, and this collarbone.
Collarbone,
Nirajan. So
Prince Nirajan. Okay.
So I treated him, and त्यसपछि on certain occasions they would call me Dr. I'm trying to remember his name, Dr. Khagendra Bahadur Shrestha. General Khagendra Bahadur Shrestha and Dr. Mrigendra Raj Pandey. That was the duo team that was involved mostly with the health-related issues of
राज परिवारको कसैको भयो भने
मैले देखेकोमा है अनि केही अर्थोपेडिक्सको कुरा भयो भने मलाई बोलाउनुहुन्थ्यो उहाँहरूले एन्ड एकचोटि चाहिँ नि आई रिमेम्बर मेनी इन्सिडेन्ट्स आई एम जस्ट सेइङ व्हाट आई रिकल राइट अवे हियर एकचोटि देयर वाज अ डिबेट अबाउट वेदर अर नट टु अलाउ प्रिन्स पारस डु सम प्यारासुटिङ के अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि some health checkup and everything had been done and some final decision had to be made, and I was also asked to attend this meeting and do some examinations. And so from our side we gave the report, and Crown Prince Dipendra and everybody was there, and the decision at that time was not to allow him to do a para jump ke, so examine garera त्यसपछि एउटा Queen Aishwarya had a wrist fracture for which initially I was not involved. Army hospital ma reduction ke gareko, but then later on afterwards I was asked for an opinion and cast needed a change or something like that. So while this thing was not fully healed, the Queen Mother had to go to Bangkok for some investigations, and I believe at the time they, Dr. Mrigendra Raj Pandey and Queen Aishwarya and Crown Prince Dipendra also had accompanied. This was in Siraj Medical College. So one Tuesday morning when Jorpati HRDC had just opened, this was probably 1986 ko kura ke, I got a call from the palace saying, you need to go to Bangkok immediately, because there is some medical issue there and हाम्रो साइडबाट कुरा राख्ने मान्छे भएन भनेर चाहिँ नि. So I got this message. अब त्यो बेलामा HRDCमा I was the only doctor के, I was doing surgery. So मलाई चाहिँ नि there was no question of my being absent there for any length of time. So I said, I'm really stuck here, I don't have anybody to hand over things to. But then प्यालेसबाट रिक्वेस्ट आएको अब आज गएर भोलि नै पनि हुन्छ कि भनेर. So I went the next day. I flew to Bangkok and I didn't know what was cooking, what had happened. So from the airport straight to Siraj Medical College Hospital, and there I was taken to Queen Ratna, and she was being investigated for some problem, and what she told me is, हाम्रो डक्टर भएन यहाँ के गर्ने भन्छन्, ऊ क्वीनको चाहिँ नि अपरेसन गर्नुपर्छ हात भाँचेको भनेछन् भनेर. सी सेड मी आफ्नै बाबु आफ्नो डक्टरले चाहिँ नि सबै कुरा बुझेर हेरिदिनु पर्यो भनेर. द्याट्स वाट क्वीन मदर टोल्ड मी. एन्ड देन त्यसपछि त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि एउटा बिग प्यानल मिटिङ यस्तै टेबलमा मिटिङ राखेर छ. डक्टर मृगेन्द्र राज पाण्डे टोल्ड मी, आई एम नट अ सर्जन, क्वीनको चाहिँ नि हात भाँचेको कास्ट खोलेर यिनीहरूले यहाँ जाँचे अनि अहिले एक्सरे गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ नि द डक्टर्स हियर हेभ प्लान्ड फर सर्जरी टुमोरो एन्ड वी आर जस्ट टोटली कन्फ्युज, वी डोन्ट नो व्हाट टु डु एन्ड नाउ यु हेभ टु सिट एन्ड lead our side of the story भनेर नि. So suddenly I was there with their hospital director, उनीहरूको orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Mrigendra Raj Pandey, and then Crown Prince Dipendra. I also I sit on the meeting भनेर. He also stayed there. So they put their side of the story. They said, well, the fracture is little displaced and good to restore the anatomy, properly, surgery would do that. And मैले चाहिँ well, from my side, I said, this is already a 3-week-old injury. Okay? So let's just imagine nothing is done from the position that it is now.
Yeah.
And what kind of function would I expect? I said the function will be quite reasonably acceptable. And what kind of function would surgery would provide? Would that be any better than? They said, we can't answer that. So यस्तै argument भयो, and then they were checking where am I trained and this and that, and अलिअलि technical कुराहरूको पनि discussion भएपछि, after a long discussion, the argument was that the treatment can be this way also, that way also. Okay, one is surgery, one is no surgery. So they said, we'll let the patient decide then. So Queenलाई चाहिँ नि, this is what has been discussed. This is what surgery would do. This is what would happen if surgery was not done. So what would we choose? She said, if the result is the same, I don't want surgery. So त्यसपछि I kind of won the argument there. Okay? And then the people, it was already 5-6 o'clock, okay, in the evening. They said, we'll do they had removed the plaster and she was having pain and discomfort. So I said, Hilton, I have to leave tomorrow. I'm in that kind of situation where I'm required at my hospital tomorrow. I came here on very short notice. And then the Siraj people said, your patient has so much trust in you, doctor. It will be a privilege for our medical school and college if you can treat your patient in our hospital. We'll open the OT for you. त्यहाँ 5-6 बजी भइसकेको थियो, उनीहरूको ओटी-सोटी सबै खोले, अनि क्वीन ऐश्वर्यालाई अलिअलि सिडेसन के दिएर मैले नै ब्याङ्ककमा हातसात तानतुन गरेर नयाँ प्लास्टर लगाइदिएर I came.
You came back.
The next day.
Yeah. उता हजुरले मलाई एउटा स्टोरी अघि न अफ एयर सेयर गर्दै हुनुहुन्थ्यो नि, जहाँ चाहिँ हेलिकप्टरमा हजुर जानु पर्यो। त्यो योभन्दा अगाडिको?
त्यो अर्कै हो, यो पछिको हो।
यो पछिको? त्यो स्टोरी चाहिँ, इफ यु डोन्ट माइन्ड मी सेयरिङ?
वेल, यो स्टोरी चाहिँ नि अलिक कम्प्लिट छैन।
ए सरी।
अब त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि, you know how the Nepali bureaucrats are, especially they try to make a shield around the PIPs and आफूलाई मन नपर्ने मान्छेलाई they try to push you out. So after I had done my work, the officers and all out there were saying, come Dr. Sabha, you go here this way. And then त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि Crown Prince Dipendraले, where is the doctor? भनेर त्यहाँ सबैले, he said, he looked for me. So I said, I'm here. He said, come with me. So हाम्रो अफिसरहरू सबै वल्ल परेर, so the Crown Prince took me with him in his elevator के त्यहाँ तल कारमा ओर्लिनलाई। तल पुगेपछि फेरि त्यो लाउकेहरूले चाहिँ नि, डाक्टर साहब हामी कहाँ आउनुहोस्, हामी उता होस्टेल कता जाने भन्दाखेरि क्राउन प्रिन्सले, the doctor is coming in my car, he's going with me भनेर। So he said, come doctor भनेर उसको कारमा प्रिन्स दिपेन्द्रसँग पछाडि ऊ र म बस्यौँ होइन, अनि उसको एडिसी हो एकजना अगाडि बस्यो। सच अ जोभियल गाई, यति गफ गर्दै मलाई क्वीन ऐश्वर्या के सपिङ गर्न जान्ला रहेछ कि। त्यसपछि चाहिँ नि दे आर गोइङ टु द सपिङ मल, सो ही सेड जाने हामी ती पनि। सो आई सेड जिस्केर मेरो त सपिङ गर्ने उनै पैसै छैन, केही दिएको पनि होइन भन्दाखेरि आई थट प्रब्ली वुड गिभ मी सम। ही सेड जाहेर गर त्यहाँ क्वीनलाई एउटा आस्क गर भनेर। बट एभ्रिथिङ सेड होइन, यो वाज अ भेरी जली गाई कि यति जोक्सहरू गर्ने कुरा गर्ने। अब
प्रिन्स दिपेन्द्र
त्यसपछि पनि फ्यु अदर ओकेजन्समा आई ह्याड उसको ब्याक पेनलाई हेरेको थिएँ। अब मसँग धेरै एकचोटि म काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होममा सर्जरी गर्दै उहाँको को साथी चाहिँ नि बाहिरबाट आएको, सोल्टी होटेलमा बसेको। I got a message requesting me to go and see him immediately again. So he was also there. He was very thankful that I came, And so that was that. So as to consultations and all that, I have many occasions where I went to the palace and my reception was there, very nice. And your particular one, Chani, where the queen broke her ankle, I remember being escorted out of a conference by the military police, to the Chhauni Hospital, and where we gathered some emergency equipment, and I got loaded onto in the helicopter, which was flown by the Crown Prince Dipendra. It landed there in the Army Hospital grounds, and then we flew from there to Bharatpur, Chiton.
मलाई चाहिँ थाहा थिएन होइन मलाई आई डोन्ट नो म अनअवेयर भएर पनि होला कि क्राउन प्रिन्स दिपेन्द्र जहाज पनि चलाउनुहुन्छ भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई थाहा थिएन त्यो चाहिँ थाहा थिएन हजुरले भनेपछि थाहा थियो मलाई थाहा पाएँ मैले
चाहिँ नि अब both ways, he flew me in, he flew me back, so Queenलाई चाहिँ नि त्यहाँ ल्यान्ड गरेपछि when we got off the helicopter, King Birendra was there and he thanked me for coming, and he said, we have a problem.
Wow.
And we went up there, saw the Queen, I saw the x-rays, and I said, this requires surgery, and he said, can you do it? I said, of course. And he requested me that it be done in the Army Hospital. I said, I need my own team and all that, so that was organized with his permission. And we operated for her there. त्यसपछि किङ वीरेन्द्रले चाहिँ नि हामीहरूलाई थ्याङ्क यू भन्ने एउटा रिसेप्सन पनि बक्सेको थियो कि
आज फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि के होइन हुन्छ नि हजुरले अघि नै पनि मलाई भन्नुभएको थियो ह्युमिलिटी के होइन राज परिवारको त्यो चाहिँ हजुरले जहिले पाउनुभयो होइन त्यो आज फर्केर हेर्दाखेरि के हाउ डु यु डिस्क्राइब द फ्यामिली के
वेल आई मस्ट से द्याट I'm not in a position to make such a sweeping comment. There were limited experiences with them. Very cordial, very nice. They treated me very well. I didn't have such a big barrier. They were very nice,
I've heard very similar के होइन अरू धेरैजना साथीहरूसँग कुरा गर्दा पनि होइन वाउ होइन ग्रेट थ्याङ्क यू फर सेयरिङ द्याट स्टोरी हुन्छ नि यो ब्याङ्ककको त मलाई थाहा पनि थिएन होइन यो त हजुरले सेयर गर्नुभयो त्यो एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ भेरी इन्ट्रेस्टिङ अब कमिङ ब्याक टु बिङ एन अन्टरप्रेनर होइन अब यो काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होम त चल्दै नै थियो HRDC को स्टोरी पनि थोरै भनिदिनुहोस् न हामीलाई किनभने HR बनेपामा त मैले विवेक दाइको मुखबाट सुने हो होइन डाक्टर विवेकले भन्नुभएको थियो
that separately with Vivek and me
100% we'll definitely do that. Let's come to B&B then.
Okay. So after we started Kathmandu nursing home, both of us were busy. Dr. Baide was doing 2 jobs basically, full-time job at Patan and then full-time job to make a living because salaries were always very low. So हामी चाहिँ नि being surgeons, I must tell you that in end of 1985, I had also started HRDC. You see, I got this opportunity to lead a project. It was project for children. And this project was located at Jorpati inside the premises of Khagendra Navajivan Kendra. And basically, this organization in Switzerland was looking for programs to help children in need. Okay? And they had a broad spectrum of activities in the Middle East, in Sub-Saharan Africa, in India, in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and they were looking to do something in Nepal. And by chance, I got involved, and after meeting them, they called me for an interview to Calcutta, and there were 3 of them, we met in a restaurant, and I listened to them, and they were interested. Their plan was to start an aftercare facility for children. Beyond that, they did not have any big plan. And I said, I am not interested in any aftercare facility, Where is the care going to be provided? I have worked here now in Nepal for so many years, and I know many things here. If I'm going to get involved, it has to be a hospital, then I'll take charge. So after listening to me, they told me we don't have the resources, we don't have funds to buy a lot of equipment. I said, we can start with very little here. I have now experience, and seen what goes on in Nepal. We can take a small resource to deliver a lot of help. And then after talking to me, they said, okay, we hand over this thing to you. And so I took charge of that project, and I'm still in charge of the project after 42 years. Okay? Of course, their team has developed. And so by the time Kathmandu Nursing Home started, we were actually doing 2 full-time jobs, spend the whole day at Jorpati and then come and do clinics, late into the evening, and maybe before doing the clinic, do 1 or 2 operations. And then before going to our hospitals, early in the morning, 6 o'clock, go and do 1 operation, 2 operations. So it's a heavy, heavy burden, of responsibility, doing 2 full-time jobs. And because we were so committed and dedicated to our work, we were very busy also, So
काम गरे जस्तो लाग्छ कहिले हजुरलाई?
well, never thought about it, okay? Because यो मेडिकल प्रोफेसनमा के हुँदो रहेछ भनेदेखि काम नभए पनि पिर होइन, काम भए बढी भए पनि अब पिर भन्ने कि के म्यानेज गर्न गाह्रो हुन्छ कि. सो म त मलाई मेरो डिमान्ड पपुलारिटी जे भनौँ वाज सच द्याट मलाई क्लिनिकमा कन्सल्ट गर्न आउन बिरामीहरू बिहान 1-2 बजेदेखि लाइनमा बस्थे, and it was when people were so much desperate to seek your advice and all, it behooves upon you also to not run away from that kind of responsibility. So I used to get home late at night. I used to leave home early in the morning, and my day was full of very challenging experiences, which every day made me reflect back. And I said, must develop teamwork. I must develop, strategies that are applicable to our, scenario out here. I must train people at all levels, So that's all a very, very tall order. And I just said, whenever opportunities come, and I was private practice चाहिँ नि पहिलेदेखि नै यहाँ नेपालमा अब if you are successful, people frown on you, okay?
पहिलादेखि नै त्यस्तै
पहिलेदेखि नै खुट्टा तान्ने, people in established government circles and all would say, well, these guys should not get involved in this. And, wherever opportunities came to obstruct, they do that. But I had made my mind so firmly about not wanting to be a part of a government system. So I said, for me, this is it. And your system, we are going to find solutions and deliver, So people nowadays talk about, providing service, doing charitable work. I've been doing this for so long, and in a way where we have addressed issues where public-private partnerships have been brought into, action, where we have run charitable programs, treated hundreds of thousands of children with complex disabilities. It has taken us a lot of hard work and thinking to organize the team, the resources, the technology, So our authorities have largely tried not to listen to us.
Or be silent.
Yeah. For us, for a long time, we talk about HRDC. Few people have appreciated. Very recently, there's been some interaction and some collaboration and some help, but for many, many decades, well, that thing up there, far away in Banepa, Apanga, and, very, very superficial knowledge about the substantive work that has gone there. So some other time we can talk about that in greater detail.
No problem, we will. I'll call Dr. Vivek as well. B&B.
So as Kathmandu Nursing Home started to work full blast, it's a rented facility, without any infrastructure, So the rented facility is built as a residential, commercial purpose. So everything can start to burst at the seams. The plumbing is too inadequate, the drainage system is inadequate, the garbage disposal system is inadequate, the power supply is inadequate. So हामीले काम गर्दै गयौँ, busy भयौँ, we rented a few houses around because of lack of space, but the infrastructure was falling apart. And in that scenario, another story, Princess Santi Singh, the King Birendra's sister, her son, one of her sons had a recurrent shoulder dislocation.
Okay.
And he was about to go to study abroad somewhere. And so I was asked to review his problem. Actually, एकचोटि घरमै गएर पनि कल गरेँ. I examined and I said, this is a surgical problem. Recurrent shoulder dislocation is an instability. The ball keeps jumping out of place because of impaired ligaments and muscle tear and all that. So I said, this is an operation that is required. And after a lot of debate, Dr. Meghranraj Pandey again was their physician. They said, no, we'll have it done here. I said, you people can afford to go out, my facilities are right now Kathmandu nursing home. But they insisted that they would have a surgery by me before they go out. So I did this operation in Kathmandu nursing home for this recurrent shoulder dislocation problem. And during that time, Queen Ratna visited him, King Birendra visited him, a lot of royalties visited our clinic in Kathmandu nursing home, and everybody is surprised. They've never seen this place before, A pretty simple setup, So, we didn't shy away from the expertise that was in our hands and knowledge, And very safely, we delivered high quality care even under very adverse conditions. मैले त काठमाडौँ nursing home I have had my children treated there for problems. My spouse has been operated there. My cousins, my sisters, they have had big surgeries there. हामीले Dr. Baidele मैले whatever is we profess as being good and safe for our patients is good and safe for us.
आफ्नो फ्यामिली पनि त्यही.
Yeah.
आफ्नो परिवार पनि त्यही, सबैको परिवार त्यही.
Yeah. हामीले त्यस्तो डबल स्ट्यान्डर्डमा अरूलाई यहाँ आफू चाहिँ नि सुटुक्क भएर गएर कहिले पनि गरेनौँ कि. So I think that also helped to build trust in the public. And काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होमको चाहिँ नि अब क्यापेसिटी चाहिँ नि एउटा breaking point तिर पुग्न लाग्यो. We are very, very busy. And a time came where people thought that Kathmandu nursing home was the place for all trauma management. And actually, I remember there was a big accident and a bus full of patients was brought and deposited on our quadrangle. And we had a tough time managing them. And त्यसपछि we have to put a big signboard saying we do not accept emergencies, here भनेर नि राख्न पनि पर्यो. त्यस्तो बिजी तर पब्लिक ट्रस्ट लार्जली एटलिस्ट हामी दुईजनाको प्र्याक्टिसमा त यति थियो. हामी यति बिजी थियौँ हामीले के मात्रै गरेनौँ काम. त्यसपछि सो हामीले चाहिँ नि the two of us said, asked our other two partners. So they are interested in, looking ahead and developing better facilities for patient care. So both of them were not interested. So Dr. Baidya and I hitched together. We started to collect funds, it was, and then looked around here, there, where it was affordable. And हामीले जग्गा किनुन्जेलसम्म finally we decided we got a reasonable rateमा. I think we bought 6 ropanis of land first in Gwarkhu. Nobody knew about this name. It was a big, sinkhole जस्तै के. त्यहाँ हामी जग्गा हेर्न जाँदाखेरि हाम्रो जुत्तै एकदम भासिने. It was a waterlogged land. हामीलाई त्यो जग्गा बेच्ने साउजीले त अरू पनि लिनुहोस्, छेउमा पनि लिनुहोस्. everybody was giving advice. We didn't have the money, and we didn't have the brain, that business mind to take a big loan. Take a big loan. I wish we had done that, but I mean, let's bite only what we can chew and swallow. So to liam, and then again we started collecting money, and in a small way we started. हामीलाई start गर्न पनि एकदम challengeहरू थियो. The initial construction phase was very challenging with sinkage and ekdam landslideहरू bhayera. Some people even told us to abandon this site, that is not a place for construction bhanera. But finally our first phase we completed, and in 1997 we moved there. In the latter part of 1997 we moved, and moving also was like a family, thing. Everybody was involved. Whatever old equipment we needed, we took there, and services were not disrupted. We were very afraid that it was such out of the way place, no transport, that patients might not come. But I said, I'm not going to make my clinic in two places. I आउँछन् नआए आउँदैनन् भनेर डाक्टर वैद्यले चाहिँ सुरुमा काठमाडौँ नर्सिङ होम र मा पनि क्लिनिक राख्नु भएको थियो. सो मेरो चाहिँ नि अब तिनै सुरु गरेँ, एन्ड आई वेयर बिजी.
1997 हैन,
97 को एन्डमा खोल्या हो.
त्यसमै म आई वाज वान अफ यो फर्स्ट के भन्छ पेसेन्ट होला. त्यसमै हजुरको वान अफ द फर्स्ट पेसेन्ट्समा म पर्थेँ होला स्कुलमा. बास्केटबल खेल्दाखेरि खुट्टा उ भइसकेपछि हजुरकोमै लग्यो मलाई अहिलेसम्म याद छ. च्यालेन्जेस अफ रनिङ अ बिजनेस?
Challenges of
medical
running,
business,
especially hospital is a very special kind of business. First of all, if you are a specialty hospital, if you develop into a super specialty, technology and equipment is extremely expensive. You need staff that can handle that equipment. You need servicing that is required. And then all expensive equipment generally has a lifespan, and it needs to be replenished. Technology is always improving, changing. So it's extremely cost intensive beyond a certain point. The doctor can deliver with his teeth and nail, and wisdom. But wherever technology creeps in, that adds cost. And त्यो कुरा चाहिँ नि हाम्रो government and all, they don't understand it properly. They think free healthcare, we can provide services for free, we can provide, certain things for free, but whenever technology creeps in, you have to implant, you have to use expensive antibiotics, things that you have to purchase, in the market. Modern medical care has several components. There are preventive aspects which are very practical. If you can implement, preventive health, preventive and social medicine, which promotes good health before the patient becomes sick. So those are important aspects that the government can focus on. And then maternal and child health care, But then where surgery, technology is involved, this is a constantly changing scenario, and that is not easy.
आजको दिनमा भनौँ न 29 years ago हजुरहरूले स्टार्ट गर्दाखेरि होइन न्यू हस्पिटल होइन ब्रान्ड न्यू होइन अब एज अ कतिजना हामीलाई चिन्ने व्यक्तिहरूले अस्पतालहरू स्टार्ट गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ अथवा स्टार्ट गरिसक्नु भएको छ होइन उहाँहरूलाई केही एडभाइस दिन चाहनुहुन्छ?
Well, I think the younger people are smarter, they हामी चाहिँ नि त we started a hospital saying we will run it with whatever limited resources we can manage. We are really not business people. So I think the business mind thinks differently. My approach to healthcare has always been coupled with compassion, and it has always been composed with sincerity, and I've never cheated anybody, I've never put profit and, personal aggrandizement and all that before patient care. I have never said, oh, I'm too lazy, I won't go, and do this whenever a patient required, my services. So I've given it all my go,
Yeah.
So
Of course.
I think those are some very special aspects of running a good hospital. You have to have motivated people. You have to have motivated staff. You have to have a process where the staff are trained, and developing a team is also a knack, how you keep your people, make your own colleagues happy, and learn to share the rewards fairly. All these things are important, and it's not just a business. Okay? There are a lot of special aspects, and I think maybe because of this we have been somewhat successful.
Of course you have, of course you have. As a हजुर आउनु भएको छ हैन. I wanted to thank Dr. Vivek too, but obviously if I thank you, it's समग्र रूपमा सबैले जान्छ हैन. मेरो फ्यामिली मलाई नै ट्रिट गर्नुभयो 1998 जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई when I think about it now हैन. हजुरको अस्पतालले my leg is fine, by the way. Patient is okay. Patient's running around हैन. So thank you for that. Recently चाहिँ almost 1 year ago चाहिँ मेरो फ्यामिली मेम्बरलाई चाहिँ त्यो के भन्छ अपरेसन चाहिएको थियो हैन. ह्यान्ड हुँदाखेरि हजुर सुनिहाल्नुभयो, पेसेन्टको आवाजै सुन्नुभयो भर्खर हैन. सो डाक्टर विवेक डिड अ फ्यान्टास्टिक जब हैन. र त्यसको लागि चाहिँ म डाक्टर विवेक र एन्टायर टिमलाई नै हैन, यु हेभ अ फ्यान्टास्टिक टिम. मैले यो आफै गरेर नै मैले रियलाइज गरेँ कि फ्रम के भन्छ त्यसलाई एन्ट्रीदेखि एक्जिटसम्म हैन, हजुरको सबै टिम मेम्बरले चाहिँ दे गिभ अस फ्यान्टास्टिक सर्भिस हैन. र मेबी मैले कोही चिनेर भनेर पनि होइन कि इन जेनरल उहाँहरूले मलाई फ्याबुलस सर्भिस दिनुभएको थियो हैन. र म बिएनबीको एन्टायर टिमलाई चाहिँ एज मेरो सोबाटै हजुरको टिमलाई हैन, आई वान्ट टु से थ्याङ्क यू.
I want to add that, Dr. Vaidya and myself are not young anymore. We're getting on, but we're still, fidgety finger doctors. We go there, we still do clinics, but our younger generation has, taken over to a very large extent the management and the finance and all that. And so I think it's very reassuring for us that what we started would continue in probably much better professional gear, in the years to come. And thank you also for taking time to patiently listen to my stories.
No, of course. अपुग छ हैन. म डाक्टर विवेकसँग हजुर र डाक्टर विवेक हजुरको छोरासँग त एक्चुअली बस्नै पर्छ हैन. त्यो भइसकेपछि बल्ल इट्स गोना बी कम्प्लिट जस्तो लागेको छ मलाई हैन.
And then maybe Dr. Vaidya and I can sit together.
Yeah, done. Of course, him too. Dr. Banskota, right at the end, sir. One piece of advice हैन to the young doctors आजको दिनमा जता हुनुहुन्छ हैन, मेबी अहिले के अरे मेडिकल स्कुलमा हुनुहुन्छ होला, अथवा कसैलाई चाहिँ हैन म पनि डक्टरै पढ्छु कि हैन भनेर सोचिरहनु भएको छ, त्यो यङ व्यक्ति जसले सुनिरहनु भएको छ, that one person, what advice would you want to give?
Well, see, I myself studied in India, trained in America, and I came back here. So, reflecting back, decades and decades of work and experience, I feel that I have made the best decision by coming back to Nepal. And there is so much we can do out here. I have many friends most of my classmates immigrated to America, and they have also had very successful careers. They are professors and, very, very wealthy. But I mean, somehow, when we talk, when we meet, many of them are very, very appreciative and in some ways jealous of what we are able to do in this part of the world. So I think it's a great privilege and honor to be working in places where there are needs. There will always be challenges. A life without a challenge is really not interesting at all.
So true.
My life,
So true.
my life and my own career has been so interesting because for almost 3, 4, 5 years I worked without a salary. So an experience of poverty, experience of riding a bicycle, working under very adverse conditions with you learn to innovate. So all these things are there in Nepal, and Nepal needs good doctors. I think all young people who are aspiring to be doctors, don't be doctor just because you have been pushed to enter this profession by your parents, etc. If you really love the profession, I think it's a great profession. You should pursue it with passion, and Nepal still needs doctors in many, many fields. If you do go out to train and all, maybe you should all come back and chip in a little bit also. That's my advice.
This was one of the best shows I've ever done in my life. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
A big thank you to you. Yes, that one person who listened to our show. And if you loved it, if you enjoyed it, make sure that you subscribe.